What's going on? 6 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. The big trade in the NFL yesterday had the Texans acquiring Stefon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills. The full trade description: the Texans receiving Stefon Diggs, a 2024 sixth-round pick, and a 2025 fifth-round pick. The Bills receive a 2025 second-round pick that the Texans received in trading their first-round pick to the Minnesota Vikings. The trade gives C.J. Stroud a bevy of weapons, including Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz, and the newest weapon, Stefon Diggs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed outside linebacker Randy Gregory. Gregory had 3.5 sacks last year playing for both the Broncos and the 49ers. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Thursday morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will starts right now. RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast. 6 a.m. in beautiful Music City, USA, with Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Robert Walsh. I'm Will Bowling. We've got discussions of a college football super league. Meanwhile, the Houston Texans are building a super team with a veteran wide receiver. And it's funny that everyone loves adding a 30-year-old wide receiver when it's around C.J. Stroud and not around Will Levis. Happy Thursday, everyone. Good morning. How are we doing?
We're good.
We're good, man. What do you call that? Moving the goalposts, essentially, is what that is,
I would
man.
call it that, yeah.
Yeah, 100%, man. Breaking news just as soon as we got off
when we
air.
got off air, yeah. I think we were all on our phones and met in the hallway and like, did you just see this?
Yeah, I didn't see it. Bert told me about it. I was lost for a second. Like, what do you mean there's a trade going on? I thought
Right.
Bert was actually getting us with an April Fool's joke on
late
April
one?
the 3rd. Yeah. Bert can't be trusted, you know? Got me saying I like Baltimore defense and updates and stuff. Like, that's crazy.
I got a cartoon tweeted at me that I retweeted last night, and it says, know the work rules. Appropriate. Texans traded for 30-year-old Stefon Diggs. Aw, you're sweet. Another guy walks in. Titans signed 29-year-old Calvin Ridley. Hello, human resources?
Why is that? That's the takes you seem to get with the Titans with things like that.
Man, we know exactly why. This franchise has been looked upon as if it's just not as important. That's what it is. That's essentially what it is, man. Every time you get something sweet, it seems like it gets taken away really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Run that happened, and it was about 19 to 21, and then it ends real fast. And so when you make moves like this, it's like, okay, well, this isn't sustainable. You look at a team like Houston, new hot head coach, new hot quarterback. You look at what they did last year with that crew around them, and of course everybody's on board with it. This franchise, this team. Screw the franchise, because the franchise is doing good as far as the operation of it. The product on the field has to look like it's sustainable over a long amount of time. It's the players, Kayla. That's why.
Well, and Houston was really in a spot where I don't think anybody wanted to be because it went all the way to the top with the ownership. And I could say, at least since being here, Amy Adams-Strunk has been a pretty solid owner and the way she runs business. And yeah, things happen. Coaches don't work out. GMs don't work out sometimes. But man, Houston was literally coming apart at the seam and they turned it around.
Yeah, they did. But look what Houston had to go through.
True.
That's one conversation I have with another fan base too. Is like, I don't know if you can handle being that for, those 2, 3, 4 years that they had. That's the other thing too, is they bought low. And then if I took your analogy yesterday, have a franchise like Cleveland to negotiate with you.
Adam Rank of NFL Network tweeted, NFL teams are going to model their franchise after what the Texans did for years. Yes, the model is have Cleveland give you a king's ransom for an above-average quarterback who has big off-the-field issues. The model also is eerily similar to what another team has done. Hire San Francisco's defensive coordinator and draft a quarterback number 2 overall. That would be the New York Jets who did that, hiring Robert Saleh and then drafting Zach Wilson. So this is not new. They just made some good picks and were given all of the picks that you could ever want for Deshaun Watson, who has been very average ever since he became a Cleveland Brown.
If available. Huh.
Yeah, if available. Do they have their return on investment yet?
Hell no.
All right, I just needed to hear it from somebody. I needed to hear it from somebody. But big move made by them, man. I don't even know how you what a lot of folks thought about it, but only thing I can think of, well, at least you got your counter. Your counter is L'Jarius Sneed, at least with one of those guys that they got down there. So it's going to be very, very interesting this fall. Of course, I think they moved up in the Vegas
rankings.
Ah,
Oh, in
odds.
the Vegas odds, okay.
Yeah, Vegas odds as far as a very serious contender.
Wow.
Plus 115 to win the AFC South.
A little pressure on him this year.
Got to bet $115 to, or excuse me, no, you got to bet, if you bet $100, you win $115.
Good for them, man.
That's the way it should be.
It should be.
They've got the Monstars. But the past 2 seasons, the team that's been expected to win the AFC South running away has not.
Has not
This is
won.
very true.
I think the reason why the Stefon Diggs thing is viewed differently than Calvin Ridley is even simpler than y'all are making it. Houston is seen as a team that needed one more weapon to get over the hump. The Titans are very far from the point where they need one more weapon to get over the hump. So people are accusing the Titans of working backwards and getting things out of order. Whereas the Texans already have the quarterback, they already have a running back, they already have a top 2 wide receiver, they already have a proven head coach, they have a proven quarterback, which the Titans also don't have. They have a proven offensive line, a proven left tackle. They're adding pieces in the defensive line. It is apples and oranges, but I did think it was funny just the way that it was viewed of like, oh, here we go, veteran wide receiver, puts them over the hump. And here it's like, well, take your time.
I'd push back just a little bit on it. I think we can get over our skis a little bit when we're saying they're already proven. I like D'Amico. I think he can be a really good coach. Now, we've seen coaches come in this league, have a hot year, and then they fall off a little bit, though, too.
Right, but that's more proven than a coach that's never been a head coach before.
As far as, that's
As
two
far as
different
Brian Callahan,
conversations.
he's a lot more proven than Callahan is.
And there is the expectations now that come along with it. Houston's going to be like you mentioned, the one expected to win the AFC South, at least for right now. We saw what happened with Jacksonville last year when those expectations were put on them in a similar situation where they made the playoffs. You know, they went pretty deep. And then, boom, Trevor Lawrence just wasn't himself the whole season, and it just seemed to be a little bit inconsistent. And I would say, personally, they underperformed as a team.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jacksonville,
I mean, they didn't make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I just think Trevor Lawrence is just not as good as C.J. Stroud, though. It's the only.
But we were all
thing.
saying at one point he was.
This show wasn't.
Yeah.
I've
Well,
never
he was
been a
supposed
huge
to be.
believer.
None
in
of
it,
us
but-
were.
He was supposed to be the
Yeah,
guy.
but
We
others
did
were.
say, I do remember
Yeah.
saying I was side-eyeing the heck out of him because now it's even bigger pressure on
Sure.
him. That's, and until he wins
He was number
it.
1 overall, too.
He was, but the expectations is again going number 1 overall for sure. Says you're supposed to be good, but then after 1 or 2 years, which is what he's had down there, you can somewhat view his situation as, all right, are you just going to be okay in this league, or are you actually going to take them over the top? Because they have surrounded him, and they have fallen apart at the seams. I feel like at certain points throughout the season, 3-4 game losing streaks and stuff like that. That's not supposed to happen when you have the guy with as much
Right.
experience that he has. But yeah, to that point, it's getting hot for him. And they're going to have to commit to him also really, really soon. Another conversation behind the Diggs, windows are real and the cap is real.
Yeah.
Buffalo, I'm talking about direct reflection of what happens when you don't win it when your quarterback is cheap.
Honestly, when people come up to you and say the cap is fake, they are telling on you that they don't know ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's genuinely just that simple. They're telling on you. And for the people then that will come back and say like, well, why are they willing to give a guy so much money to not play for them? You know what? Why are they willing to take such a big dead cap number? Josh Allen is the reason. Because you can give Josh Allen a first-round pick wide receiver and just do exactly what Stefon Diggs just did.
Well, I actually had a conversation yesterday about that.
Did you?
Yes, I did. Who has Josh Allen actually made better as one of his wide receivers? I
Gabe
push
Davis?
back on that one. Has he? Because Gabe Davis went missing, unless just Gabe Davis wasn't a part of the game plan. Like, he hasn't built up a wide receiver that's his that went on to get a second deal. Gabe Davis, okay.
Gabe Davis just got a big second deal for having 750 yards.
But he had a moment, though. Like, that's
Does that not count?
No, I mean, essentially, when you break down one guy over 4 years for him, everybody he's had has either been leased or not necessarily a part of the Buffalo Bills initially.
Dawson Knox got a second
Yeah, I was
contract.
gonna say
and
Dawson.
Dalton Kincaid is one of the rising stars at the tight end position in the league.
Okay, so there we go again. So do we say Josh Allen's doing exactly as Lamar Jackson is doing, playing with tight ends, respectfully, Bert?
What do you mean?
Because, again, can he win it with tight ends?
I don't
And go deep in the
think
playoffs?
so.
No one can. No one can just win with tight ends. That's why they're going to draft
Kansas
a
City
wide
might
receiver
do
in the
that.
first round, probably.
What I'm saying is I don't overly trust Josh Allen to develop a wide receiver the way you see other quarterbacks do it.
Ooh, I
you-
do.
So
I
you're
don't.
saying with Stefon Diggs, it was just like
Stefon Diggs came
he's
ready
him.
made.
Yeah, like he's him. He
He
didn't
came
need.
ready made.
Well, he hasn't really needed, though,
There
to
was-
develop a wide receiver. He's not been at that point in his career where he's on the big contract that he is, right? Like, you can't hold that against him because he's been on a rookie deal. What do you do with quarterbacks on rookie deals? You surround them with major talent at the wide receiver position that costs a lot of money. That's what the Titans are doing right now with Will Levis. Like, are you going to hold it against Levis if Ridley has a big season? Like, well, that's not Levis. That's just a good receiver.
We're talking about two different. We're talking about the first
I don't know
rounder.
that we
We're talking
are.
about the first rounder top 10 versus the second rounder.
in terms of quarterbacks.
What I'm saying is this. My point to be made about Josh Allen is this. I'm not giving him so much more credit than what Stefon Diggs did for him. Dawson Knox, yes. Well, who's Dalton Kincaid? Yes. But how many times can teams operate by making it to the Super Bowl with mainly tight ends as your wide receivers? Without Diggs, I don't know if he has been proven to make wide receivers that good.
So you're saying whoever they bring in, which they'll likely bring in the draft, a wide receiver,
The young guy.
you're not exactly convinced yet that he can make that guy get to the next level and quickly because
He gonna have to
clearly they
show.
don't have. a ton
Now
of
is where he
weapons.
needs to
Right.
show me
Right.
that he can do that.
You know who Josh Allen got to 967 yards in 2020?
Who?
Cole Beasley.
Cole Beasley
Yeah.
in the slot. And how far
An
did they go?
old Cole Beasley. Well, yeah, because does Cole Beasley defend Patrick Mahomes on defense? No. Can Cole Beasley defend with 7 seconds left in an AFC playoff game against the Chiefs? No. So who cares? It's not his fault.
Understandable. Again, this new era of Josh Allen to me, he's got to show a lot more than he has in years past with less.
with a lot less.
With
weapons.
a
That's
lot
what I was
less.
just gonna say.
Wins still aren't a quarterback stat. I mean, this is what every quarterback that's on a major deal has to go through. Can you do it with new guys that you make better?
see.
Everyone
We'll
goes
see.
through this.
We'll see. And I'm not diminishing what he's done, but
Guy
what I'm
gets-
saying is we'll see.
He gets way too much hate, man.
Who? Josh Allen?
Absolutely, he does.
What has he done?
Mine's not hate. It's
He's
just
been an
a little
MVP candidate
unconvinced.
every year he's been in the league, other than his first year and a half.
You
Essentially,
know where only that shows up
Yeah,
at?
yeah.
Is when you look at Pro Football Reference and it says second in MVP or third in MVP.
okay. Again, can he defend Patrick Mahomes when Mahomes goes on his yearly game-winning drive against him? No.
What I'm telling you is this. Is he doesn't have Diggs, and I wonder what Buffalo is going to be. I'm looking at windows. I respect where you're coming from.
615-737-1045 is our number. Coming up, there is a proposal for a college football super league. What do you like and what do you not like about it? We'll dive into it next.
The future of medicine is here at QC Kinetics. QC is the nation's leader in the most exciting revolution in pain management we've seen in decades, and that's regenerative medicine. So if you are tired of those achy joints, if your joint pain is keeping you from what you love to do, you need to call QC Kinetics now. Surgery, steroids, drugs, these are no longer your best options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative treatments that deliver lasting results. So we're talking about natural biologics here, using your body's own power to actually repair and restore that damaged tissue. And QC Kinetics is under good leadership as well. So give them a chance. Give them a call. Call QC Kinetics for a free consultation today, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024.
One of the things I love most about Genesis Diamonds is the laid back feel, the vibe, the relaxed feelings you get when you walk in. There's no commission salespeople at Genesis, never 1 ounce of pressure or intimidation. If you are a diamond expert or if you don't know anything about diamonds, they will make you feel at home and at ease. And you can see a wide array of GIA certified diamonds, all in your price range, every shape. Or if you're looking for lab grown diamonds, Genesis has those as well at prices way, way, way below what others are selling them for. And when it comes to the ring, Genesis has the ring designers that other stores can't even get. All the top brands from trusted, renowned designers like Tacori and Verragio. All this plus free service for life on any purchase, designer jewelry that you can't find at other stores, and 100% diamond upgrade guarantee. An incredible selection of pristine luxury pre-owned Rolex watches. This is Nashville's premier jeweler. Voted time and time again as the best place to buy an engagement ring and the best jewelry store in Middle Tennessee. From rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, colored gemstone jewelry, all at prices other stores can only dream they could offer you. For your special occasion that's coming up, get the most value, the highest quality, and the best overall experience at Genesis Diamonds, located in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Thursday morning, kicking off hour number 1 of Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW, brewed by 8th and Rose, 615-737-1045. Coach Mack at 7:20 this morning. We'll talk about a Titans trade scenario at 8:20. You won't want to miss that in hour 3. And John Buccigross of ESPN will talk some Predators hockey and NHL with us as the season begins to wind down. That is coming up at 9:20 this morning. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Several college presidents, an NFL executive, professional owners, and a small group, 20 people to be exact, have proposed a college football super league. Those involved in the group, CST, College Sports Tomorrow, because today is almost over. No, I'm kidding. College Sports Tomorrow is what they're called. Which sounds like something Michael Scott would make up. I know you guys have looked at this. The broad strokes of it we'll get into in a minute, and I'll go into the details for those who have not yet read it. But what do you like about this idea, first and foremost, before we dive into the logistics of it?
Giving it real structure. The idea that the portal and NIL will be managed. I think that's it. They're essentially setting a salary cap. And also, I think 3 letters, NFL, the correlation to it. I like that side of it. Those are the 2 things. And there's more that I like, too, but I don't want to take too much airtime when it comes down to it. And I'm going to throw one more. The tiers. I like the tiers. I do.
So all of that stuff, just because, first and foremost, they need some sort of structure at this point. Like, the fact that NIL and transfer portal is going on, like, I'm okay with it, but there was never any structure from the beginning. Like, there was no easing anything your way into this era of college football. And so thus it got out of control. And so something like this, I feel like this is the only type of thing, and specifically this or something else that they try to create, that is going to be able to say, okay, we're starting not over, but we're putting this in place now, and things are going to be managed differently. There's going to be rules. There's going to be maybe a change in the sports calendar in terms of signing day and when people can enter the transfer portal. And also for this specifically, the playoffs, I believe we have down here that they would not require a selection committee, which I kind of like. So I don't know if Will wants to go into the details on how the playoffs would work. But I did like that fact, too, that it wouldn't be necessarily a playoff committee choosing it.
The CST outline would create a system that would have the top 70 programs, all members of the 5 former major conferences, plus Notre Dame and SMU as permanent members, and encompass all 130-plus FBS universities. So you would have 70 permanent members of a college football super league in 7 10-team divisions, joined by an 8th division of teams that would be promoted from the 2nd tier. Now, this is so much of a legitimate thing that it has been presented to people within the sport. So the search firm, this firm has presented this to conferences and is starting to kind of gain a little bit of traction and just telling conferences and conference commissioners about it. The Big Ten and the SEC are not involved in any capacity at this point. And this is part of the reason why the college football playoff made a self-imposed deadline of March 15th to get their next plan for the college football playoff in place. That way this could be silenced a bit. So this is not just, a group that's meeting together that has no say. You're talking about Philadelphia 76ers owner David Blitzer. You're talking about a search firm organizer in Lynn Perna of Turnkey ZRG, who is a search firm that has hired a lot of conference commissioners, including the Big Ten's Tony Petitti up there. You've also got the NFL's number 2 executive in Brian Rolap. So the NFL is unofficially giving this a little bit of a blessing by having their number 2 person involved in it in some capacity. But essentially, you have 7 team divisions, and we're going back to 1990 college football, Southwest Conference. You're back. Mm-hmm. 7 10-team conference leagues, and then, or a 10-team leagues, and then another 10-team division that could be promoted or relegated from a smaller group of 50 FBS schools that is more your stereotypical group of 5 schools. So your smaller directional schools, your regional schools, and things of that nature. So it borrows ideas from the NFL, the Premier League, and MLS to create a system that they believe would bring more television value and sustainability. And a lot of their influential members have direct ties to the NFL, to the Premier League, and to MLS. So you'd have a 16-team playoff in this where every conference winner would get a bid and then the next best 8 teams. The SEC, the Big Ten, and TV networks hate this idea, and that's why it's not going to happen. But I do think there are some aspects of this that will be within the next phase of what college football is.
I think the SEC and the Big Ten is doing exactly what the NFL would do in these situations too. Let you build something up, and then they come in and give their plans in the end. I know it was in the article also, are some conferences who have canceled meetings with them because the TV contracts are in place right now. They don't want to tick off ESPN or Fox or ABC, whoever the case may be. So they're fine. Big Ten, SEC, others who are joined in that already have their TV deals locked in. What this does is it sets, I guess it raises the eyebrows of other teams who may be potentially looking to either get out of their division or out of their conference, like a Clemson, like a Florida State. I don't know what the ACC is going to turn into. If they walk in and start negotiating with this group, especially when you have the second in command, or I see Roger Goodell. The article put Roger Goodell's lieutenant. If Roger Goodell, lieutenant, is operating and going to these meetings, setting up calls, that lets you know that the NFL somehow wants to put their hands on it. There's so much coverage right now between the college and the NFL when it comes down to either the Senior Bowl. I know they're separate entities and stuff, but the connections are there. That the NFL at some point have to get involved with it, because what they don't want to happen also is the quality of the draft, like we speak of this year, to fall down. What they don't want to happen is the idea that guys, go back to college because they're getting paid just as much in NIL as opposed to going to the league already. They're always looking for new young talent in the NFL. And the fact that you have that guy's name in this article, Roger Goodell, it speaks, I think, volumes about what's going to happen. It may not be now or the next 3 to 4 years, but to create a plan in which this is incorporated sometime soon, I like the model of it. I do. The 70 permanents plus everybody else, I think it's all right with me. I think the idea that, look, if you work yourself up as a university, and a lot of teams are growing. Heck, they bring up SMU, and there's a lot of other colleges, JMU, right? James Madison is another university that's working themselves up to move up a tier or two. That right there, I think is very promising to teams that feel like they should be in the college football playoffs or be a part of the big checks that are being distributed. And it also, again, gives more of a lane to how you deal with free agency, basically, in college, how you deal with how you move, how you get paid in NIL. And I guarantee you the other side of it also is how postseason play will look for a lot of teams. You don't want that quality to go down because there's money to be made, and you also it takes down the value when your star players aren't playing it. I guarantee you the ruling on this will have more structure for what the players can and cannot do. You will have essentially a CBA along with a new conference, super conference, if it continues to develop.
And Zach Bunch in the F&M Bank chat says, sounds logical and makes sense. How could that work? And that's how I always feel with certain situations in terms of what the NCAA, and I know this is not the NCAA, but what it's been like in the past several years, like things that feel like they make sense and trying to get some sort of structure just never end up being done. And then we get the mess that we're in right now. And eventually something like this is going to have to be done because the Big Ten and SEC are the two conferences that rule everything. They have the money, they have the TV deals, they have the most viewership when it comes down to it. And you have to have there's other colleges, there's other teams across the country that are going to have to play somewhere. And so I feel like unless you completely put all those teams in a whole different league, which I think there's too many good ones to not be included somewhere within the SEC or Big Ten down the road, then I don't think that. I think we continue what we're doing. So I think this makes a lot of sense. And maybe the Big Ten and the SEC absorb some of these teams, and they're already two super leagues, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know how it will happen, but I think it has to happen at some point. And at least they're trying to get the ball rolling and putting something in the minds of these people that actually are going to make these deals in the end.
The first area where they messed up was just calling it a Super League. That was stupid. That was really dumb. I'm dead serious. You can't brand this as a Super League with what happened in sports a few years ago where soccer tried to do this and every owner that was involved in it just got raked over the coals publicly. And you had protests and riots outside of stadiums of this guy needs to sell the team because of the whole Super League thing. So that was strike one. It doesn't make sense from a TV perspective. It just doesn't. Big Ten and SEC have long-term television deals. You're not just going to break just because the other conferences couldn't get their crap together and are left out in the cold. Once you have given the SEC and Big Ten the power that they have, it's going to be way harder for them to give it up now. So whatever happens, I think, in college football is because Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti, and the member schools of the Big Ten and SEC said so. And so everything in this sport is now based around is what does Greg Sankey think? What does Tony Petitti think? And what do the haves think? This gives too many seats at the table to teams that are have-nots for the SEC and Big Ten to get behind it. That's why it doesn't make sense. And I know Josh Pate of 247 Sports put out this tweet. This was on March 7th, and he revealed yesterday, said, I've been hearing about this idea for a little while. He put out his own model of this back on March the 7th of 8 conferences. And in this scenario, Vanderbilt is no longer a part of the SEC.
Stop.
Vanderbilt goes independent with Notre Dame, UConn, BYU, and Northwestern. And you have the return of the Big 8, the return of the Southwest Conference, the return of the Pac-10, and the return of the Big East. But even in this scenario, if you have the Big East champion automatically making the playoffs, you're making one of these 10 teams a playoff team. Boston College, Pitt, Louisville, Rutgers, Syracuse, Maryland, West Virginia, Cincinnati, USF, UCF. Greg Sankey's looking at that and saying, why should I give one playoff bid to those 10 teams? Why should I give one playoff bid to a group of 8 teams, Kansas, Kansas State, Iowa State, Nebraska, Oklahoma State, Missouri, Colorado, Utah? Why do they deserve a spot at the table? In his eyes, the SEC should probably get 2 or 3 bids in that. And the SEC would be Ole Miss, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Bama, Tennessee, Auburn, Kentucky, LSU. So in this scenario, A&M, Vandy, Missouri, and Arkansas are no longer a part of the SEC in Josh Pate's scenario. And that's a little bit closer, again, to what this would look like. You put all of college football and the Power 5 teams into 7 10-team conferences. In this scenario, everyone would still be in the mix, but they would be realigned. And you could have a scenario where, again, the Southwest Conference is what it was back in 1990.
Only other thing I didn't like about it, again, it's not ironed out as clean as you need it to, but the initial tweet from Andrew Marchand, he's the one that I saw the article be sent out from. He says, the college president and top executives have devised a super league, as you just said, to transform college football as they believe. This is where it becomes problematic because I don't know how true this is or how it really break down, but it says current system is doomed and headed for bankruptcy.
Yep.
Doomed in bankruptcy?
Not every conference, but pretty much everyone but SEC and Big Ten, yeah.
Doomed in bankruptcy. Yeah. That's those are strong words.
Teams are legitimately looking at scenarios where they are going to have to cut sports to remain financially viable.
UCLA, again, moved to the Big Ten primarily there because they did it. They were bankrupt. Like, they had to make the move. Well, we don't all have, and I'm speaking of, where I go to school, we don't have the luxury of joining the Big Ten. It's just, it is what it is, academically, population-wise. But UCLA had the chance to do it, and because they were going to go bankrupt.
And I think the bigger aspect of that is not because of what the structure is now, but what it's probably going to be in 10 years, right? Like, if you establish a salary cap and you have a scenario where this NIL mirage that we have, which is really for most schools pay for play, what name, image, and likeness is. I'm still for it, but it is, in a lot of ways, pay for play. Yeah. If you have a salary cap, if you have a players' union, if you have rights for players that are dictated in a contract that is pen and paper, then schools now can't afford to upgrade their facilities. You've talked about it before. College football facilities are significantly nicer than NFL facilities because NFL teams have to pay their players. College football teams don't have to pay their players. Where does all that money go? In areas that help you in roster acquisition and recruiting, which is facilities, which is stadium, which is all of these different things. You can't do both now. You're introducing millions and millions and millions more in the near future. This is not as far away, I think, as people think it is. In the near future of paying players millions of dollars. So you have to have some sort of equally shared revenue model and dictated terms to make this financially viable.
It really, I ain't gonna go at them like this, but the NCAA, if we were that this close to being that broke as far as certain teams and stuff like that, then what were they doing in the meantime to get this above board?
Nothing.
Like that right there, to me, all these people that stepped down over the last 24 months from the NCAA headquarters, that is a sham. I'm talking about it is beyond this. It's beyond anything that they call themselves a governing body, that they absolutely dropped the ball. If you got teams that were that close to being bankrupt or that close, I mean, they're living check to check. It's essentially what certain universities were doing. And that is terrible, especially when they put so many parameters and rules and guidelines on the players' ability to earn.
And that's the thing. They sat on their hands for the things that mattered, and instead went at the things like little itty bitty, transfers or all the crap that we've heard them attack universities for, including the latest with Tennessee. They would go after those types of things, but the things that needed change and they knew were going to start to crumble fast, they sat on their hands and looked the other way. Like, we're not the problem. We're not going to try to change it. And it is what it is now.
That's too fragile. That happened too quick you mentioned UCLA situation.
Yeah.
But then again, to your point, you lose the Olympic sports. You lose the ability to actually pass out other scholarships, because that's the other thing too. Football pays for so much more than just the football stuff. It's basketball sometimes. It's baseball. It's softball. It's swimming. Like, there's so many other things that big money pays for. And you're telling me that some schools were in a chokehold.
And still are. And there's a lot of schools that their athletic departments are in trouble right now.
I'm be real.
Absolutely.
It may sound like I'm overreacting to this, but that's somewhat shocking to me that it got like this quick.
It's been going on. I think the crazy thing is when teams have to make a decision between, do we want to have a softball team or do we want to build a new facility for our football team because our school down the road just built one? They're always going to choose the football facility. Mm-hmm. Like, athletic directors now are being hired and asked the question. I read this a couple weeks ago as well. They're being asked the question, are you prepared to cut sports if you take this job? 615-737-1045 is the number. We'll get back to the NFL discussion coming up and the impact of Stefon Diggs in the AFC South. Titans have a corner that's seen a lot of them. How does L'Jarius Sneed stack up? We'll talk about that next.
Hey, it's Kayla Anderson, Ramon Foster for our friends at Window Nation, and we're just happy because it's springtime here. We're already in April, so maybe that means some spring cleaning for you guys, and that means checking your windows. That's something that sometimes gets overlooked. You want to be able to have windows that are working properly for the wintertime, for the summertime, to keep the energy inside in terms of your AC and your heat. So if they're cracked, if they're leaking, if you open them and they won't open or don't stay open, now is the time to call Window Nation. And you can buy 2 windows, get 2 free, plus a little bonus here, 0 down, 0 interest, 0 payments for a whole 24 months.
And you can also just trust Window Nation too, Kayla. All they do is Windows. They are the experts at it. Installed over 200,000 Windows last year. That's 40 times more than the average window company, with 96% of them requiring no follow-up service. That's because they measure each window 3 times to ensure proper fits. They have over 20,000 online positive reviews. And another thing, you're not boxed in a corner when it comes down to a window combination. They have over 1,500 custom vinyl window combination. Again, reach out to them at 866-90Nation or go online at windownation.com.
Thursday morning, kicking off the show on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast. And hour number 2, Coach Mack stops by. Hit the NFL headlines, plus a look at some interior offensive line prospects coming up in a half hour. A lot of interior offensive line talk from the show that employs one. I, for one, am shocked.
Me too, man.
This yesterday from Football and Other F Words, Zach Lyons on Twitter at FWordsPod. Titans corner L'Jarius Sneed has played in 5 games against the Buffalo Bills. In those games, Stefon Diggs was targeted 10 times, had 3 catches for 37 yards, not a single touchdown. Is Stefon Diggs even wide receiver 1 in Houston?
Is he wide receiver 1? He's going to get a volume like that, I think. That would be my assessment of you don't trade for a dude like him and give up a second-round pick. Well, it's not their second-round pick, but, yeah, I think he's going to be the playmaker that they want, the aggressor that they want also. The thing about him, he brings it. But it's a matter of, again, he's 30 years old. Do we start playing that narrative with him a little bit?
And that's what they started to say about D-Hop coming here last year. DeAndre Hopkins, 30 years old. He's kind of seen his best days.
Right.
And then, boom, not only does he come out and have a 1,000-yard season, but he does it when he's really the only damn weapon the Tennessee Titans had for Will Levis / Ryan Tannehill last year that was consistent and was getting double teamed a lot. And so was still able to do that. So the over 30 thing, it does play in sometimes, I think, but sometimes it doesn't. I mean, you've got a few years, I feel like, for some of these receivers in their 30s if they stay healthy. But I don't know if he's the number one because C.J. Stroud has got to have that chemistry with him too, right? This will be C.J. Stroud's first time playing with him. And just like Josh Allen did with Diggs back in Buffalo, you got to build that chemistry. Yeah. And sometimes it's not always number one out of the gate.
I don't think the people will see Diggs as Hopkins because Hopkins was coming off a 700-yard and a 500-yard season when he came here.
Yeah.
So there was a natural regression that I think a lot of people expected to continue in the similar way that Julio Jones regressed when he came here. So Stefon Diggs, the last time he had a season under 1,000 yards, it was 2017. And I was a junior in college.
Right. And people are still like, he's 30.
I haven't seen a lot of that, honestly.
Really? I have.
I've seen a lot of people who are over the moon thinking this is the missing piece. Nico Collins is wide receiver 1 there. 100%. Stefon Diggs is wide receiver 2 of the Houston Texans. He may, yardage-wise, end up being wide receiver 3.
Behind
Once
who?
Tank Dell comes back
Dell.
healthy.
Yeah, because if Dell's healthy.
He does have a broken fibula, but I'm with you. I think that the young talent is there. To support your claim, Will, I've got the stats behind that. Nico Collins had 114 more yards than Stefon Diggs last season, and the more damning part of the stat, on 27 less catches.
On 27
Same number of touchdowns. Nico Collins caught 80 balls last year. Stefon Diggs, 107.
And he's a really good wide receiver, don't get me wrong, but I loved the tweets yesterday of like Stefon Diggs is going to have a temper tantrum now just in a new uniform.
I do wonder about that.
But what would I just wonder about things in Buffalo though? I'm not going to even just start to blame it on one person. He is a little bit of a diva, and you've got to welcome that into Houston too. Remember that this is a younger quarterback. This is a guy who's coming in. I think it will be good, but there is going to be a sense of, hey, I've been here, I've done that. I don't know if it was just a Diggs thing over there. There has been so many issues in Buffalo. And our friend Tyler Dunn does an incredible job at reporting and kind of going through the weeds there. Maybe this will be a good thing in terms of change of environment for him, too.
Yeah. I won't minimize that Diggs is a playmaker, too, and I don't think anybody is. But this is, I think, the recipe moving forward for a lot of teams. And it's been this way for a very long time. They got 3, 4, maybe 5 playmakers that can catch the ball for them, too. And we're not even talking about John Mechie. Right? Like, they got a squad that's lined up when it really boils down to what they're surrounding the young first-contract quarterback with. I can see him being number 2 because, considering he's got to defer somewhat to Nico Collins. It ain't no somewhat. If I'm Nico Collins, I'm looking at C.J. Stroud like, hey, my brethren, we're in lockstep together.
Remember when Robert Woods was wide receiver 2 here a couple years ago?
I remember that.
He is wide receiver 5 for the Texans going forward into 2024.
Does he even stay on the roster now?
That's what I was going to ask.
They can save
What's his
a
deal?
good chunk of money by cutting him.
Okay.
Did he resign?
Did he sign a 2-year? there?
I think
I'll
he
look
signed
that
it
up.
2 years
2
ago.
Okay.
year, $15.25 million with a dead cap number of 4.75.
See ya, Bubba Trees.
Who'd you rather have on the field, him or Mechie, who's cheaper
Mechie.
and potentially can play the same
Mechie.
type of style
It
of
might
ball?
not be either or. You could probably have both of them with the money they have. They've got as much money as the Titans do.
They also
Mechie's
brought back
younger.
Noah Brown, who was really good for them late in the season after the Tank Dell injury, and Xavier Hutchinson, who they drafted, who also played kind of well for them. They have a depth at wide receiver. It's kind of odd the Bills didn't want one of those guys back just to give them some depth.
And also, didn't they re-sign Dalton Schultz too?
They did.
Yep.
And brought in Joe Mixon.
I mean, the Texans have so much money. They also have an offense that is liable to keep 7 wide receivers on the roster because they have so many 3 wide receiver sets with just 1 tight end. So it's not like they are doing the same arithmetic as the Titans under Todd Downing. And all right, let's keep 5 guys and have 4 tight ends. Like they can keep 7 wide receivers easily. Titans kept 7 receivers
Yeah,
during
they
the season
did.
last year.
While also having Davis Mills as a backup quarterback who can somehow get the job done.
Right? I know.
615-737-1045 is our number. The financials behind the Diggs trade are interesting. We'll get into that next. And let's play Guess That Wide Receiver. Can you guess the one wide receiver who caught a pass for the Bills last year, who's still on their roster? Next.
7:01. Good morning. What's going on from the 1.45 The Zone Studios? I am Robert Walsh. The big trade in the NFL yesterday had the Texans acquiring Stefon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills. The full trade description: the Texans receiving Stefon Diggs, a 2024 sixth-round pick, and a 2025 fifth-round pick. The Bills receiving a 2025 second-round pick that the Texans received in a trade from Minnesota involving their first-round pick. The trade gives C.J. Stroud a bevy of weapons, including Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, who was acquired in the offseason as well, Dalton Schultz, and the newest weapon, Stefon Diggs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed outside linebacker Randy Gregory yesterday. Gregory had 3.5 sacks playing for both the Broncos and the 49ers last year. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
And the show goes on into hour number 2 on a Thursday morning edition of RKW. Ramon, Kayla, and Will is brewed up by 8th and Roast, with locations on 8th Avenue, Charlotte, the airport, and the Broadview at Vanderbilt. 8th and Roast Coffee cultivates community by the cup, and you can find your favorite retail bag at every local Kroger and Whole Foods as well. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, our producer. I'm Will Bowling. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio joins us in 15 minutes. We'll talk some interior offensive line, as well as the headlines around the NFL and L'Jarius Sneed's introductory press conference just the other day. Streaming live at 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter.
Twitter, please.
You look so dumb.
You need to just interrupt me, and you need to just give it whenever I say Twitch. Like Twitter,
No.
please.
Twitter,
is the
please.
thing.
He moved the game yesterday. He said Twitter, please,
did.
yesterday. And I was like, all right, he want to play, I'll play.
Yeah, but that doesn't work.
So we're moving.
I know. But Bert wants to go, we'll go. That's why I beat you.
Nah, that doesn't count. I said Twitch, please. If we're going off the new metric.
He's going back.
You said a new metric yesterday.
Now, when has anybody ever listened to me? When has anybody ever said, Bert did it? That's law.
Am I the fool for listening to you?
Yes.
Your
I'm
client,
the
Ron
fool.
Slay.
That's true. Me and Slay go all the
Yeah.
way back.
And we have the same DNA, so I must listen to you if he listen to you.
If y'all had the exact same DNA, you'd be a little bit taller.
Goodness. Oh, because he is 6'8".
When you made April
There's a
Fool's Day
parking
fun
lot
again,
outside.
we listened to you.
Yeah.
That's true.
Hey, short guy. There's a parking lot outside.
Short guy.
Yeah.
I am
guy.
5'11" and 11/12, dadgummit.
Damn.
Why do you know the
That's
11,
above
12?
average.
That is like an 11/12.
That's cute.
I'm almost 6
Cute.
foot.
That's
almost.
Okay.
How do we feel about
Give
lifts?
yourself that inch.
Does anybody else use lifts?
I do not.
Are those Crocs
I do
with
not.
lifts?
Yeah, dude, I used to work at a podiatry office, and you have to put these like orthotic lifts in people's shoes, and it gives you like 3 or 4 inches.
Okay.
Like, so I might have to look into it if Ramon's going to go throwing around height accusations.
I did not. You threw it around first, Bert.
Or
You
just
could
start wearing
stand
some
on a stool
platforms.
back there
There
at
you
least,
go.
right?
I could do that.
Pull that stool from underneath.
You don't put yourself on camera, though, so nobody would know a difference other than us.
That's true. You'd be able to see more than just my face. You'd be able to see my belly.
That means more
be great.
dancing.
You would know when I was doing the
Yes.
classic 90s defensive lineman having my belly poke out because it's hot back here.
I love that look. thought
I
it
do
was fun.
too. I'm thinking y'all are going to see my vacay pics from over the summer. It's
Sure.
just going to be me in crop tops and belly shirts. That's all it's going to be.
Can't wait.
615-737-1045 is our number. The Buffalo Bills had 5 wide receivers catch a pass last season. 4 of them are no longer on the team. Who is the one returning receiver for the Bills? Does anyone know?
Who's the one returning?
I just have tight ends in mind. I don't even have
Robert
wide
knows
receivers
because
in mind.
Robert knows ball.
I know who it is. I talked about it on my podcast yesterday.
Go for it.
Shakir.
Khalil Shakir
Oof, that's not going to get done.
is the correct answer. 611 yards last year.
He had a big jump. I think he only had 100-ish his rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You looking at him to be your number one?
Probably not.
No.
That's
Hey, he's good.
he did all right.
Not as a
He was
number
fine.
one, though.
Yeah. I wondered before they let go of Gabe Davis that they know this deal was going to happen at some point. Did everything change over the last month?
You would think Stefon Diggs has been unhappy there for a minute. I feel like the turmoil has, been documented. And I didn't expect the Texans, but I did kind of feel like he would be on the move at some point.
It's fascinating because this is just like a reset for the Bills. Is this a reset? And of course, they got their franchise quarterbacks are all as well. But this is a tough reset for a team that's been in the hunt for a Super Bowl.
Their window was wide open at some point.
I think it still is.
I don't think it's
They're
wide
still
open.
in a Super Bowl window.
I think it's just an offensive shift.
Yeah.
If you looked at when Joe Brady took over last year, they kind of took over from being like the throw all over the yard and run through the mud and do the playground plays to a team that cared a lot more about running the football. The emphasis was more on James Cook than it was on trying to get the ball to a bevy of different offensive players. So I wonder if that's the offensive shift that happens this offseason. Do they make a bigger move? They've already got two great tight ends, one who can spread out wide, one who can play inline. Do they just add another wide receiver who adds a classic Titans wide receiver pick where it's like, well, he's a great run blocker. He's really good on the perimeter. I'm interested to see how far they're willing to go to retool this offense.
And you're right. It did take a little bit more of a upward march when they did promote Joe Brady as the OC. I think it did improve. I did see improvement in it, but you do need to get those key pieces. And when you don't have a wide receiver one yet, and maybe they find that in the draft, which could stir up a whole bunch more talk of if you go up and get it. But I think you still need that.
They could double dip in the draft a wide receiver.
Which I wouldn't doubt it if they did.
2 twos now, right? At least 2 twos.
I mean, for me, if you have a top 5 quarterback, you are always in a Super Bowl window. Always.
I give you that. It's just it's a matter of how strong that or how wide that window is open. I'll give Josh Allen his credit. He deserves the credit for being a playmaker, but he also has to have some playmakers around him also. That's the biggest contingency I have with what the Buffalo Bills are going to be moving forward. If you're telling me that the operation of the offense is a whole lot better because they're a new offensive coordinator, I'll live that life, but he's got a lot more pressure on him to perform.
Right.
And it's been that way, but I feel like now you don't have that guy. Say what you want to about Diggs. He still delivered for him.
In his last 7 games last year, Diggs averaged 41 yards per game and had 0 touchdowns, which is the only time in his career he ever went 7 straight games without a TD as well.
We can say that, and other people ate because Diggs was out there too.
Yes. And here's the other thing with this Bills team. You have your quarterback, absolutely. But you also, and we've had this discussion on the show a couple times, you also have the quarterback in Patrick Mahomes that you're facing and has been your bugaboo in terms of getting to, the deep part of the playoffs. You have to have a better team around you. You can't just have your quarterback. Like, he's not Patrick Mahomes. So I just feel like this team has got to have a lot more weapons right now than it does. And they'll fill in spots and they'll draft. But right now, I feel like they're on the other side of the window. It's still open, but it's not wide open.
That's true for every team in the league, too. I mean, if you want to win a ring, you got to go through Pat.
Big Pat now.
I know.
He big Pat now.
But you're right. I mean, I think that's what every team in the NFL is saying this offseason. How do we beat that guy?
How do we beat that
Clone
guy?
Patrick?
Ain't no cloning them.
That's Caleb Williams.
Good Lord.
According to a lot of draft people,
Yeah.
Caleb Williams is the clone of Patrick Mahomes.
That's yet to be seen.
That's why the Bears did what they did.
Yeah. Lord, that is very true.
But people didn't think Patrick was going to be that coming in. People think
Correct.
Caleb is, right?
Yeah,
Like, that's a little different.
I think you see what he's capable of doing, and he's got to prove it at the NFL level. There's a lot that comes behind Caleb Williams, but to say that you can manage a team and build a team around what you think his talent says, and again, his reps have been high as far as what he's done in college. The thing I like about him, and since we had that conversation on Caleb Williams, there's still a lot to unpack because he went to Oklahoma and pretty much gold-booted the golden child in Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler's been the guy for a while and outplayed him and made him transfer. And then he goes to USC, University School of Spoiled Children, right? And turn that organization around. He's been challenged. He's accepted the challenges. And you have to say to yourself, did he make Oklahoma better? Yes. Did he make USC better? Yes. And when you talk about his competitive nature, it shows up on the tape. That's what's most important to me. And a lot of people say that. Well, I ain't gonna say a lot of people say that. The conversation we've had before with people has been about Tom Brady. Well, look at his tape. His tape showed that he was making these passes and was capable of becoming that type of player, and the system had to work for him. And you also look at Caleb Williams' situation, a guy that's thrown over 1,000 passes in the NFL. Article we discussed yesterday was talking about the volume in which quarterbacks throw. He has thrown a ton in college and have completed and has extended plays and has shown that he's a competitor. This is a deeper conversation, probably for a later date.
It's really the conversation. I think extends when you see him drafted and you see what he is starting to do or not doing, right? Or when he sees this team go 0-4, let's say they start, and how do you kind of get your team to rally in that position? Or they go 4-0, and we're saying, look, this guy is definitely the dude.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, since you guys talked about cloning Patrick Mahomes, all I've been thinking about is Bizarro Mahomes and what he would look like. And this is what I've got so far. Instead of Patrick, his name would just be Rick. He would be like the Doodle Bob version of SpongeBob. He would have a very deep voice. He would have a perfect family around him, no annoying sister, brother, father to ruin anything. But he himself would be a deviant. I feel like he would be the most prolific scrambler in NFL history. He would just be the opposite of everything that Patrick Mahomes is.
Maybe instead of Mahomes, he could be Maato.
Maato. That's Rick Maato.
Rick Maato.
Okay.
There you go.
And what's the voice that can't be Kermit? Can we do Fozzie?
Darth Vader.
Miss Piggy. Okay.
I was giving him Darth Vader.
Darth Vader.
Yeah. I'm going to be real, Bert. I'm going to be real. Keep the dad. I'm a fan of the dad. Dad can stay.
He's got the same dad. That was the father of both Pat and
so
Rick.
half
If it's an
Mahomes.
evil twin, then I mean,
Yeah, I keep the
we're
dad.
getting way too in the weeds.
Dad really
I'm
ain't a
telling you, as
distraction
soon
to
as
me.
y'all do this, I just fall down random rabbit
love
holes.
it.
If you ever wonder about my productivity suffering, that's why.
He's got to upgrade on Brittany Mahomes. Too.
Let's fall into an offensive line rabbit hole with Titans Radio's head coach, Coach Mack, joins us next.
Get a jump on spring cleaning and transform your home into an oasis of calm with Artisan Custom Closets. Say goodbye to the clutter and hello to custom storage solutions that are made to suit you, your style, and your budget. If you're tired of unorganized chaos in your closet, garage, or office, let the expert designers at Artisan Custom Closets help you get organized in any space in your home, from walk-in closets to pantries, garages, or laundry rooms. Artisan Custom Closets is local. It's not a large chain business. Not only is it local, though, but their products are manufactured in the Southeast. It's not cookie cutter items, but customized items for your home. All right. So start with a free in-house consultation and take advantage of the multiple financing options to make getting organized easier than ever. Schedule your consultation now to bring some calm and get organized. Call them at 615-800-2199 or visit artisancustomclosets.com to book your appointment.
7 a.m. on a Thursday, and this music means it is time to talk to the coach. He is Titans Radio's head coach, Dave McGinnis, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Two Rivers Ford. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, joined by Coach Dave McGinnis. What's up, Coach Mac?
Good morning, guys. Everybody doing good?
We're good, Coach.
Good,
We're
Mac.
great. What was the football conversation with our esteemed producer, Robert Walsh, this morning about?
He had a couple of players that he had vetted that he kind of liked, but then he worried because he saw some bad plays. And then, I explained to him that the bigger traits that you're going to like are going to be at the top of the draft. That's why setting your draft board is so important because, you can fall in love with people at the top of the draft, but if you don't have a chance to get them, you need to really start digging in on the guys that are going to be available in the pods where you're going to be picking and find out the traits that you do like and how they're going to fit with you.
I like it. There's a big philosophical draft discussion we could get into based on that. Coach Mack, before we talk about some prospects and specifically on the offensive line, what is the better fit on Mike Keith? L'Jarius Sneed's blue jacket or Calvin Ridley's chain? Which do you think looked better?
Well, I think they both fit him very, very well.
Perfect.
They're both exactly his personality. You guys don't know Mike like I do. So to me, I thought it was absolutely outstanding. I talked to him about it. See, you don't know. Mike probably has a lot of that stuff at home in his wardrobe. He just doesn't wear it when he's on air.
That's great.
Coach Mac, that's why I keep trying to tell him. You know how Shrek says it sometime, and he's like an onion. He's got layers. Like that's Mike Keith right there. He's got so many layers, Coach Mac.
Well, he's a man for all seasons. I promise you. You really got to know him, and I like that. I like that onion reference. There are a lot of layers to Mike Keith. Just sit back and watch it.
I love it. Coach Dave McGinnis with us, presented by Two Rivers Ford. Coach Mack, L'Jarius Sneed meets with the media the other day, talked about the aggressive kind of mentality, the leadership he wants to bring to this Titans cornerback room. What do you like about the fit with Denard Wilson specifically, which he spoke about and said, it feels like I'm a fit for what they want to do here, and Rand Carthon essentially said the same thing. We want to get one of the best in your face. I can smell the brand of breath mint the wide receiver has in their mouth corner. And that's what they got in L'Jarius Sneed.
Well, that, as I said, I'm very, very close to this defensive staff here because I worked with a lot of them for 5 years. And so, I understand exactly, what Denard's mentality is and what this defensive mentality is going to be. And also, some of the things that he wants to do with it. And look, playing man to man is a big part of that. And getting a corner like this in this day and age, there's only so many times that you've got guys that can truly. And I love his attitude that he wants to match up. He wants to match. And when you can talk about traveling a corner all you want, but until you really have one legitimately that you can do it with as a defensive signal caller. I've been fortunate in my defensive career. I've really had one guy like that in the 31 years I coached defense and was in charge of defenses, and it was Aeneas Williams. And, we were in the NFC East at the time. We played Dallas twice a year, and part of my game plan, every time that we played Dallas was, Aeneas, you got Michael Irvin, and the other 10 of us, we're going to figure out what we're going to do. So that really helps. But a guy has to have that mentality. And you heard what he said. He said, "Look, I'm gonna lose some, but I'm gonna win the majority of them." And so, to me, that's not braggadocio. You've seen it on tape, and you've seen that's what he's done, and that's what's allowed him from a 4th round pick at La Tech, who had a lot of skill set, but he played some safety at La Tech, but so. I look back on where Rhett and I had him ranked. We had him about that 4th pod, as a 3rd or 4th round player, and he's played himself into this contract that he's gotten, and so it's all on tape. You've seen it, and then we got just a little taste of it as to what that mentality is. Denard Wilson, that's his kind of dude. I promise you that.
With him being his type of guy, Coach Mack, to somewhat lead that secondary. One of the most talked about secrets is in football and the NFL, you got to win your division. And you make moves sometimes specifically for your division. I don't know if the Diggs deal was done because of L'Jarius or the fact that they just needed weapons. But how important is it to combat sometimes what your divisional opponents do as far as receivers versus cornerbacks, D-line versus O-line, quarterback versus corners?
Well, I mean, when you look at it, the truth is, if you want to get in the tournament at the end of the year, which is everybody's goal, I mean that should be your realistic goal. You're going to play your division twice a year, so that's where you start. Now, clearly, the way the National Football League is now, especially with free agency, I mean, it pretty much spreads out who you're going to have to be able to counter against personnel-wise. I mean, and it changes. It changes every year because of that. But to your point, if you want to get in the tournament, you've got to be able to win the majority of your division games. And to do that, you've got to be able to match up with who you're playing against. I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, I've done it everywhere I've ever coached, and then that's important. When you were playing that those games take on a special meaning because it's they have a real impact on what's going to happen as far as the way the season plays out that you want to be able to get into the tournament. So it's those matchups are important. They're extremely important, and it's a big part of it.
As it pertains to Coach Mack, and I know we're supposed to talk interior offensive line real quick, but as it pertains to Will Levis, how do you, being a part of staff that have young quarterbacks that get new talent, like a Calvin Ridley, still having D-Hop here and still having the maturation of Traylon Burks, how do you get them to understand that, hey, you need to eat, sleep, and breathe development with your guys? When does that conversation start, and when do you expect a guy like Levis to somewhat start either posting that or connecting with those guys in the offseason?
Well, it starts immediately, because you don't have to. Ramon, you know this. You played, and everybody else that's sitting there, right now. I mean, you guys have been around this long enough. If your dude's the dude, you don't have to tell him that. You don't have to tell him that, and the players know it too. That's one thing that Will Levis did last year, regardless of how many games you won when he was in there, because that's dependent on a lot of things. He earned the respect of the football team last year because of the way that he approached, once he was given the reins to be the starting quarterback. I mean, you don't have to, if you've got the right dude, you don't concern yourself with that, because that organically takes care of itself from both ends, both from the veteran players that he is surrounded with, to also the respect that he has earned, and he's earned that respect. There's one thing about Will Levis, I think that I can say pretty emphatically last year, is that regardless of the success, the way that he worked and the way that he approached the preparation and the way that he approached the game, both when it was good and it was bad, I think earned the respect of that locker room. Now, it's going to be a new locker room, but I would only think that is going to elevate. I don't think they had to talk to Will Levis a whole lot about that.
Coach Mack, join us on RKW. Let's get into some of these interior offensive linemen. I want to start with Graham Barton out of Duke. Interesting cat in the way that probably could be a good center, but maybe even you could switch him to guard or tackle.
Well, to me, he's one of the better chess pieces as far as when you start looking at being able to suit up 8 of them because you get that free roster spot if they're an offensive lineman to be active on Sunday. Yeah, Graham Barton, 6'5", 313. He's got about a 33-inch arm. He's got a wing that's right at 80, but he's a 4.97 40. At 6'5", 313, and a 4.55 short shuttle at the combine, and a 3-cone. I mean, Graham Barton at Duke, to me, is going to be – he will be a guy that will probably slot in whatever the makeup of your offensive line is. If you get him on your squad, he could slot in at either one of those 3 spots on that center guard triangle. I mean, I firmly believe that. I like this player. I like this player a lot. I just don't know. I think he will probably. I mean, this guy's got a chance. I think to probably go. I've got about not I, Rhett and I, when you look at it, true guys that, that probably most people in the league are saying this is the 17 or 18 guys that we have first-round grades on, but there's 32 picks in that first round. Graham Barton could go in the latter part of that first day, and clearly, if he lasts to the second day, he'll be one of the premier picks at the top of the second day. I really like this player a lot.
Coach, I'm looking at some of these centers. We've got Zach Frazier out of West Virginia. You've got Cedric Van Pran out of Georgia. What makes, though, Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon, what makes him kind of stand alone among some of these other centers?
Well, he's a 328-pound guy at 6'3", and the thing that you look at with him, even at that size, he ran a 5 flat 40. So you've got a guy he's a big, thick. You talk about having the center guard triangle, the defensive players that play on it that are getting paid now. I mean, those guys, being really, really front end loaders that just try to crush the cylinder and can get lift. This guy is a counter to those types of people. At 6'3", 328 pounds. We saw him down there at the Senior Bowl. He is just he plays. He plays big. And he plays big in the fact that he moves people, and then he can also he not only can move and get to the second level. If he has to drop anchor inside, even with games, he's got an initial punch to him that stymies even the bigger players up front. Plus he's got that movement to him. He's my number one center. Just looking at him, I think this guy's gonna make somebody a quality. If you can get that set to the interior of your offensive line for a long time, he's a powerful man that can move, and having to counter what the defensive linemen are in this league now. Most people are well, you guys know. I mean, the trend is to get the dudes up front that can affect the quarterback up inside, because the ball is coming out so much quicker now just because of the way offenses are set up. Most of your pressure, if you can immediately collapse that center guard triangle, that's what you're looking for defensively. That's what you're trying to scheme up with all of your protection breakers is up inside now. This guy would really, really help you.
Coach Mack with us, presented by Two Rivers Ford. Coach Mack, when you look at someone like Kansas State's Cooper Beebe, who only had 20 reps at 225 on the bench press, but is considered a high IQ player with tremendous agility that he showcased at the Combine, what do you see with him, and how would a team try to use him and his strengths to be successful in his NFL career?
Yeah, you got 6'3", 322, and when you look at him, 32-inch arms. He's got 9 1/4 hands, but he ran a 5.03 40, which the guys they're not going to run 40 yards. He's got a 1.75-10 split, which the guy can move, and with a 9.1 broad jump, so you've got some explosion in there. You would like for him to have a little bit more as far as tensile strength when you're talking about being able to just take on it and drop anchor. But again, you look at the wingspan on some of these guys that are successful coming out in this draft. I mean, he's got a 78-inch wingspan. So Cooper Beebe is a guy that, again, just like we talked about with Graham Barton, could probably play either of those positions in that center guard triangle. But he's a very, very, I still got, of course, ties to Kansas State out there, and he's a very, very intelligent football player. And again, he's another guy that is going to be very well thought of, and probably towards the top of these interior linemen, along with Zach Frazier, that Caleb mentioned, that will be right at the top of these interior linemen that are going to be taken in this draft.
Coach Mack, I had a conversation with some guys yesterday, man, that do analytics, and they were just talking about how they've talked to NFL execs, and it's something you mentioned earlier, man, about the league looks like it's trending back to the bigger offensive linemen, but it's also not just the bigger offensive linemen. You look at some of these tackles and guards, I don't know if I've ever seen, Coach Mack, so many guys run essentially 5 flats, basically 4 9s that weigh 320, 340. Just how big of a plus is that for NFL offenses, and just the way you can manage your quarterback's protection and the run game?
Well, the thing about it is with this offensive line draft, if we want to talk about it in general, Rhett and I, we're getting ready to dig into some really deep OTPs on these guys, and just doing the tackles yesterday. We're talking about physical traits, and when you're at the combine and you're sitting watching groups. I mean, the two groups that came through at the offensive tackles, all of a sudden you're going like, wow. There are 10 guys that we went through, 10 offensive tackles. Now, 10 is a lot of tackles. Not a one of them had a wing of any of those 10. I'm talking about right now, had a wingspan less than 80 inches. Now that's big humans. That's big humans, and you start looking at it across the board with the top 10 guys we looked at. 6'9", 6'6", 6'6", 6'6", 6'8", 6'8", 6'5", 6'5", 6'5", well over 300 pounds. And then also with that type of wingspan, and then you're talking about guys like J.C. Latham at Alabama, 6'6", 342. That's a large man. We ran a 4.85 40. I mean, that's really ridiculous. Fashanu from Penn State ran a 5.11. I mean, Joe Alt, that was just in here, ran a 5.05 at 6'9", 321. I mean, that's big men moving. And so, yeah, I mean, this offensive line group this year at the Combine clearly, I think, solidified in everybody's mind. What you look at on tape is this is a very, very talented offensive line group as a whole. And that's why look, the guy that's going to make the decisions on the offensive linemen that are brought into this franchise is Bill Callahan. So he's got guys that, whoever he likes, that's who the Titans are going to have. And I kind of trust his eyes for what he's done for all of his career. This is a pretty exciting time if you're looking for offensive linemen.
Coach Mack, we ain't dream crushers here, but those heights and sizes you gave out, you got to have some real good genetics if you're trying to play in the NFL offensive line. It sounds like parents got to be about 6'4", 6'5", and there's a guideline to this, Coach Mack.
Well, yeah, if you want to break it down to the base part of it, yeah, you got to do like that. You got to come from some pretty good stock.
Yeah, that's the reason Bert's back there, Coach Mack, with us right now,
He's
man.
lifting back here.
Wow.
Could not get to the
He's
flats,
benching over
man.
here.
No, because me and Bert had a little entanglement earlier, Coach Mack. We went back and forth with one another.
Well,
So
first of all, Ramon, you don't need to bring all of you and Bert's personal stuff to the airwaves. You just really don't, because there's some things that look. Bert worked with Rhett and I on Mac Talk all year. I was deep into the nighttime with Bert. So Bert is a lot different dude at nighttime than he is in the day. And I'm not going to tell you whether it's better or worse.
Oh, dang.
Coach Mack, we always trust his eyes every Thursday at 7:20, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, Two Rivers Ford. Coach Mack, thank you as always.
Guys, it's always my pleasure. Bert, let's talk some more ball. See you guys.
All right, there
Bye,
you go.
Coach.
Now the real interview begins
There it
between
is.
Coach Tay McGinnis and our esteemed producer, Robert Walsh. We'll talk some college hoops coming up. Wooden finalists are out, and a plane wasn't out for one Final Four competitor. That's next. Coming up on halftime of the show, RKW is brewed by 8th and Rose, Tramone, Kayla, and Will, 615-737-1045. Am I correct in saying we have another dramatic Taylor Swift reading coming up in 15 minutes for Ramon Foster?
Crushing it.
8
You are
o'clock
correct.
almost.
I had not heard the magical keyword from the voice of God, a.k.a. one of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine that this actually means Ramon's update much more important this morning.
No, our bosses got with me yesterday and said, you know what, Ramon is doing such a good job
Really?
that we don't have to play that liner anymore. We don't
Look at
have
that.
to play
It's all
it,
live.
and Ramon is just going to take over. And this is an all-month thing, Ramon, so you get to read this
All
every
month?
day.
You know
Every
what?
day.
For the month of April?
For the rest of April.
In
How
this
many-
economy?
How many days is in this month?
30.
How much-
Enough.
How much vacation
Yeah,
I
too
got
many.
left? I'm gonna start taking off now. See if I
Then
can
who's gonna
get
do
in
your
No,
contact
read?
with her.
I would need you to record it in that
Yeah,
instance
who's
and
going to
send
do
it
your
in.
read?
You got them this time, Kayla. I'm passing it off to
Oh,
you.
no.
Baby.
You're the chosen one for this one.
It's
Correct.
good being the chosen one.
You could
for
do
this
some
one.
voices, too, if you want to, like,
You know-
amplify
You know what's
it.
going to happen, actually, too, is she's going to hear this, and her people are going to hit
Maybe.
me up and say, Ramon, you know what? Screw the giveaway. You come with us and start playing. I might get a
There you
solo
go.
on stage with her because
What
of
would
it.
you play, the drums?
I'm throwing it out there right now. I know 3HL has been asking, or been, putting it out there that they need Chris Stapleton to, call into the show, join
I know.
in.
Would love
Like,
that.
mine is Taylor Swift now, okay? Mine is Taylor. Like, word is going to get back to her people. Don't ask me how I know. And I will be the one that actually call the people, say, hey, come join us on tour.
You know what would be
Yeah.
great about you singing a solo?
What's that?
If you sang solo, none of
No
us
one
could
would
hear it.
you.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd enjoy
How
that.
y'all feel about that joke?
Great.
I've heard that one numerous times.
Yeah, that's my first time.
Or like, oh, yeah, who sings that?
Yeah.
Let's keep it that way.
Oh,
It's
I'm going
great.
to just be quiet.
You're
I
not going
thought
to
you'd
give
be
me
great
a,
on the drums.
You're not
That's
going to
my
give me a
personal
friendship
opinion.
bracelet, are you?
No, yeah, I just broke it. I just broke
He
it.
just cut it.
5 finalists for the Men's Wooden Award. R.J. Davis of North Carolina, the guy for Purdue, Dalton Connect for Tennessee, Tristan Newton at UConn, and Jamal Shed for Houston. And the guy from Purdue, who, according to many reporters, has locked up this award since November, because that's what we do with major awards in sports. We give them out with 1% of the season completed.
I.e. Miles Garrett. Never mind. But yeah, that's tough.
Zach
That's-
Edey is his name, for those
I
unfamiliar.
Yes.
I think Zach Edey's going to give it some. Say what we want to about him. Zach Edey did his thing. He did exactly what you wanted him to do. Whether we can complain about the 3-second violations he should have had, he's dominated. And I won't take that from him. Do I like how he did it and how they allow him to do it and how they make excuses for it? Absolutely not. But when you're asking him to deliver, he did. So did Dalton. So did Tristan Newton. So did Jamal Sheed. Like all of them. R.J. Davis. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to it. It's just moving forward. If there's another type to come around like Zach Edey, don't give this special treatment to us. The way I look at it, man. And you can't say it's not special. Who sets out and camp out into the paint the way he does? That's different.
Yeah, I mean, he's a different player, right? I mean, different built, whatever you want to call it. But I do agree. I feel like this award was kind of already decided mid-season. And there are some great guys on this list, including, obviously, Dalton Connect of Tennessee, where I look at it as, and I know Edey's path at Purdue has been, a gradual build. He's gotten better. He's worked on a lot of things. I'll give him credit for that. And he's taken his team to a Final Four. So also give him credit for that. But I also look at Dalton Connect and what he did this season in a transfer year where you're coming to a brand new team. You are expected to be that dude and produce on a nightly basis and sometimes carry your team in certain situations. And for the most part, that large body of work, I can say Dalton Connect did that. He did put up the numbers. What he did to me was really impressive. And I'm not saying he's comparable to Zach Edey. That's a different player. But I just feel like what he did this year in 1 year as a transfer to get this team over the hump, to get to the Elite Eight, I thought he was right up there with being a guy that could beat Zach Edey for this award.
DJ on YouTube in the F&M Bank chat says, because of my mean comment, Edey is going to head to the line for 2 free throws.
I love it. It's true.
He's been sitting on the line for less.
Yes, he has.
Yesterday, did you guys see this about the Yukon plane
No.
trying to leave for Phoenix? They finally took off at around 12:30 a.m. Central Time. Mechanical issues
Oh, gosh.
for Coach Dan Hurley, Yukon, and the plane that the NCAA arranged
Oof.
for them to take. So they finally took off from Bradley International Airport near Hartford around 12:30. The flight was originally scheduled for 6, but it was delayed to 11:30 because of mechanical issues. And Dan Hurley is out here tweeting at 1 a.m. Eastern time saying, now we still haven't taken off yet.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And the NCAA issued them a plane?
NCAA handles travel for all
Ugh.
Final Four teams themselves.
Yeah, I'll be honest. That happens. I've sat on the tarmac for about an hour and a half sometime too. Have to get off the plane one time in Cincinnati. It's normal. It sucks. It's a huge inconvenience for them.
Allegiant Air?
That's what they had to downsize to, was a smaller Allegiant plane after their original plane didn't work,
Ooh.
from what I read.
I mean,
classic NCAA, just making it
I
easier
was-
for Alabama.
Just going to say the NCAA involved.
Typical.
Oh,
Nah,
goodness.
the way I look at it is they'll be fine. They're good enough. I just
they
am
are.
not a plane sleeper, so I sympathize with that. If there's another dude on their plane that can't sleep, I mean another dude on their team that's not a sleeper on the planes like that.
That's a trek, too, guys. Like, from where they're at
Going to
over in
Phoenix?
Connecticut, that
Yeah.
is a long, long plane ride.
It is. That's circumstantial right there, though.
Coming up, the Price is Right basketball edition, women's Final Four versus men Final Four, as Hour 3 begins next.
It's Ramon Foster for Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Man, it's time to smile and save this month with Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. From now until April 30th, take advantage of big savings on home systems where you can enjoy up to $1,500 off select new HVAC systems, whole home water filtration and descalers, or select new whole home generators. If you've been waiting for the right time to upgrade or replace your systems, I'm here to tell you now is the time. Visit happyhiller.com today for the details.
What's going on? Just a hair before 8 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Big trade yesterday with the Texans acquiring Stefon Diggs from the Buffalo Bigs. The Texans received Stefon Diggs and a 2024 sixth round and a 2025 fifth round pick, while the Bills receive a 2025 second round pick that the Texans received from the Minnesota Vikings and dealing their first round pick. The trade gives C.J. Stroud a bevy of weapons, including Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, who was also acquired this offseason, Dalton Schultz, who was re-signed, and the newest weapon, Stefon Diggs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers signing outside linebacker Randy Gregory. Gregory had 3.5 sacks last year, playing for both the Broncos and finishing the year with the 49ers. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast as we roll right into our number 3 on 104.5 The Zone. Ramon, Kayla, and Will with Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, our producer. I'm Will Bowling, streaming live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook Live, or Twitter. That's the spirit from our esteemed producer and executive producer, I might add, Robert F. Walsh.
See.
The F stands for fun.
It does. It stands for fun.
Nah, the F is for finisher.
Finisher.
Okay.
Hey, when are you going to grow up, man?
Hopefully I can just Peter Pan
Peter
this thing
Pan,
for the
yeah.
rest of my life.
You did say that
Exactly.
the other day.
What is this reference that I'm hearing right now?
Peter Pan?
He never grew
He
up.
never grew
He's
up.
the boy that never grew
Yeah.
up.
Oh, well, yeah, I know that.
Peter
But
Pan
like
and the
the
Lost Boys.
finisher thing, like what was that?
Oh, that's the
Oh.
Lil Wayne thing. And the F is for finisher.
That's what I thought. Okay, I was just making sure. I was thinking there was some Peter Pan. I thought the two references were the same. Anyway.
I thought the F was for something else with Lil Wayne.
Oh.
Phenomenal.
Oh, Wheezy, fantastic baby.
Don't look at me like that. He's the one that said
What is
phenomenal.
going on?
There is actually a CVS receipt long of what the F in Lil Wayne stands for.
You might say that Robert Walsh is stomping on this beat like a Sigma.
Oh.
Anyway,
Should have said a Kappa, but never mind. What are you talking about, Sigmas? What are we talking
Shake it
about
off.
here?
It is
go.
time to shake that off and go hear Ramon Foster talk about Taylor
It's
Swift.
that time again?
If you want to head to see Taylor Swift this fall, then listen to Ramon Foster.
All right, we're calling all Swifties, calling every single one of y'all, okay? Start picking out your Eras outfit and making those friendship bracelets. Will won't be getting one anymore because
true.
we just might fulfill your wildest dreams with our Tay-Tay Flyaway. That's the best part of this, Tay-Tay Flyaway. You and your bestie could win one of 3 trips to see Travis Kelce's girlfriend on the Eras Tour this fall, including round-trip air, bam, 2 nights hotel, $500 in cold, hard, good old American spending, folding cash, and 2 of the hottest tickets on the plane, all right? Don't let this be a cruise summer. Tell your Travis you belong with me.
That's not
at
what the script said,
Eras
Ramon.
Tour.
What
Read
is
what the
going
script said.
on?
No, I got this. If your friends are jealous, tell them there's no bad blood, but we are never getting back together. Text the national keyword OFF, OFF, to you people who can't spell, to 95819 now to enter for your chance to win. OFF to 95819.
I'll give that one about a 6 out of 10.
Woo, that
how
was
much
a
can I
lot.
doctor the script and he will continue to read it?
That's a lot of references
You didn't
to
read.
songs.
You didn't read one part of it. It said, "Don't let this be a cruel summer. Tell your Travie you
Oh.
belong with me at the Eras Tour."
Travi. I don't even call Travis Travi.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They just making up stuff now. Bert's just making up stuff
That's
now.
right. The cold,
Travie.
hard, good old American spending folding cash was my favorite part of that.
Yes.
How many different ways in the month of April can Bert talk about the word money? We're already getting to that,
Moolah.
and it's April 4th.
It's moolah.
We are. Hopefully, we start getting text messages from people saying that I text the number right now, okay?
It'll
Is this
happen.
like a gas station situation where if a gas station sells the winning lottery ticket, they get a piece of it. If someone in our listening area wins these tickets, I feel like we should get a little kickback.
I'll take $50 on the walking around cash.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That'll buy you
spending
like
money.
a hamburger now.
That's dinner for one.
That'll get you.
Dinner for
That'll
one.
get you one alcoholic beverage at the concert.
That too.
One tall boy truly
That's crazy.
at the Taylor Swift concert.
Do you
Actually, it'd probably be pretty easy to get a beer at the Taylor Swift concert. The Truly line is probably very long. The beer line is probably extremely short.
For the lights that you wear on your wrist, like where they light it up the audience, is that just free of charge
Yes.
with the ticket? Okay.
Having been to a Jonas Brothers concert in the last year, it's like on the seat or something. Or they
okay.
hand it to you when you walk
Perfect.
in.
I have no idea what y'all are talking about.
The Preds do it for hockey
Yeah.
games as well, where they
They
give
light
you
up.
a bracelet. That way, instead of opening a phone app that like synchronizes music with a light show, they give you a bracelet.
And
then that
synchronizes.
synchronizes with the music and things of that nature.
They did that when I went to the Wiggles at the local watching place.
Where are you at the Wiggles concert?
Yeah, you don't like
When was
fruit
this?
salad? Yummy, yummy.
I have
Come
nothing
on, the
wrong-
Wiggles got some bops, man.
Nothing wrong with fruit salad.
Wait.
When were you at a Wiggles show?
This was like Kids Bop when he introduced
Don't
Ramon
let
and
him
I.
finish. Let him finish. He needs to answer this
There ain't
question.
nothing wrong with the Wiggles. I'm just
When
saying.
was
What's
this?
one of the songs?
It might have been a couple months ago. I might have had to take my
Really?
nephew.
That's
So
awesome.
you blaming your nephew?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to go, but they were like, "Hey, can somebody take Cooper to go see this thing?" Yeah, I'll take Cooper to go see the Wiggles.
Heck yeah. I'd absolutely volunteer to take one of my nephews to see the Wiggles.
I didn't even. I had to pay for my ticket, man. They made me pay to go see the Wiggles, which
What was the ticket price?
I like $67, $70.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
$60, $70.
So you widowy went to see the Wiggles.
I literally went to see them sing fruit salad.
Who's the star of the show?
God, I don't know their names.
Celery?
The dude wearing the yellow shirt.
Banana.
I ain't got a clue who y'all.
I don't think
talking
it's.
about.
I don't think he's called Banana. think
I
it's
don't.
just
I
like-
have no clue either. That's why I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm lost on the
It
Wiggles.
sounds
gotta
like
let our-
veggies and
We got
stuff.
to give our expert time to speak here.
I have
Robert
no
F. Walsh.
idea.
I am not the expert on anything besides what's going on this weekend on Saturday and Sunday at WrestleMania.
Where's that?
That's in Philadelphia.
Oh, nice.
Oh man,
City of Berlin.
Somebody
I have
in
been
the-
seeing a lot of wrestling stuff on social media about The Rock and who's the blonde guy?
Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes,
The
okay,
son
that's
of
what I thought.
Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty
the
Rhodes.
American dream. I
All right.
have wined and dined with kings and queens, and I have wined and dined on pork and beans.
All right, so for those of us who are unfamiliar, Robert, can you give us a 30-second synopsis of what this beef has been about?
Absolutely. So last year at WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes had his reluctant return to WWE and WrestleMania, where he was facing off against Roman Reigns, who is the tribal chief. He's part of this Samoan bloodline family, which includes The Rock, Rikishi, Umaga, plenty of wrestling royalty throughout the years. And Cody failed. He failed valiantly, but he failed. So the whole impetus behind Cody is that he has to finish the story. He has to lay claim to the title that his dad never was able to obtain, which is the WWE Championship. And when Cody was getting up to WrestleMania, The Rock came out. And The Rock said, "I'm going to be the one to beat Roman Reigns," which Cody Rhodes said, "No, I won the Royal Rumble. I have rightful claim to the WrestleMania title shot." And The Rock said, "Who do you think you are?" And then he started beating and bludgeoning Cody on his way to WrestleMania. So night one of WrestleMania, I believe it is a tag team match. Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins against the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, and The Rock. And the following night, it will be Cody Rhodes taking on Roman Reigns for the undisputed, unlimited WWE Championship. Where Cody is in the main event 2 years in a row, and everyone's left wondering, can he get it done? Can he finish the story?
And that was Talking Wrestling.
Oh, my. That was a lot in a little time.
615-737-1055.
Love that, Bert. That was great. I might actually watch now.
Yeah.
I probably will too. It's one of those things that if it's on, I won't change it because it is captivating, but I'm not going to go seek it out.
WrestleMania is the best show all year.
That's how I feel about NASCAR. Too.
Lil Wayne is going to be there. You've got, I mean, they have a lot of different acts, and it's just a full-on entertainment spectacle. It's not just wrestling, not just music. No,
Right.
it's an amalgamation of all of those things.
Isn't Knoxville is Bianca Blair still like a thing?
Yes,
Yeah.
she's
like
a very
big
big
time.
thing.
Tennessee
She's
track and
got her own
field
show
alumna.
too.
Yeah,
She's
Easily.
a bad, you know what?
huge. Yeah, my little niece
Girl.
will fight you for asking her if she's
Bad
a
girl.
big thing. Like, no, she's huge.
Yeah,
out
that's what I
here.
thought.
Yeah. By the way, WrestleMania, other than the Super Bowl, WrestleMania is tier 1 with Super Bowl performances. If you ever get an opportunity to go, absolutely go to it.
That will likely be the first major event that the new Nissan Stadium hosts.
Yeah.
Right?
Sold out in 1 minute.
Yeah. Hey, it is a well of a time.
Well, speaking of big events this weekend, the average price of tickets to the women's Final Four and men's Final Four. Have you guys seen these numbers?
No, have not seen that.
No.
All right, let's play the prices right. Give me the average price. Average, not lowest, not highest.
Average.
The average price of a men's Final Four ticket.
$210.
$210?
Yeah.
Final Four?
Yeah.
Oh,
Kayla?
God. It's got to be high.
What's high?
Like $950 to $1,000.
Which one? $950 or $1,000?
$1,000.
Robert?
$3,500.
The correct
$1.
answer is $1,001.21
Okay.
for the men's Final Four. Women's
1,000.
Final Four, average ticket.
I think it's more.
I got to go up now. $620.
Kayla?
I think it's more than the men's at this point, right?
What's more than the men?
I'll just
What
go
number?
a little up. I'll go 1,500.
Robert?
I'll say $1,501.
You little.
$2,323 is the average ticket for the women's Final Four. It is double
Dang.
the price of the men's Final Four because, well, Cleveland, 19,432 seat Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse versus the State Farm Arena, which is 63,400 seats for the men as well. So supply and demand certainly changes things. But last year, the overall average ticket price for the men was $993, about the same. But last year, the women's semifinal was $636 average.
I mean, that just went up by a ton. Where
And it
was
is almost
last year's
quadrupled.
Final Four for women? Was it in Houston?
I thought it was in
Possibly.
Indianapolis, wasn't it? Or maybe, or
was
was
it?
it
Okay.
not?
I was just wondering the venue.
By the way, my little niece ended up
Let me
texting me
see.
through her dad and said, yes, Bianca Belair is still a big deal.
Yeah.
Do we celebrate
Dallas last year for
Okay.
the women.
Do we celebrate championships here, or is the popularity of women's game going up? Because you throw these prices out right here, and I know it's supply and demand because it's such a smaller arena, but these are some huge prices right here for a ticket. Like it's not really in the same realm as the Super Bowl, but I didn't expect it. Clearly, somebody who don't keep up with that type of stuff, that those tickets would be that expensive. It makes you think: do we have a championship? Let me show up type of problem, or is the growth actually there? And I think it's a little bit of both this time around, man. That's big time.
Yeah, and I wonder with just the effect Caitlin Clark in general has had. We've seen it throughout the season, selling out every venue, even the venues that aren't, Iowa's venues, just to see Caitlin Clark. Like, I wonder too, how much of an effect is seriously about Caitlin Clark. And the women's game is
she's
doing
a
really
draw.
well, but she is a huge. She's a draw.
She's a draw. She is a draw. So much so they can put a game outside in a football arena and they show up for it.
I know.
That's huge right there.
Coming up next, with the Stefon Diggs trade, let's look at a couple of trade scenarios for the Titans. There is precedent for a team moving from pick 27 to pick 6 to take a star number 1 wide receiver. Could the Titans be open to trading with the Buffalo Bills? We'll talk about that next.
It's Ramon Foster for United Structural Systems. And when it comes to large home repairs, a lot of the time we homeowners pretend we don't see the warning signs. We are afraid of what we're going to hear. This is especially true with waterproofing and foundation repair. It could be something big that needs to be fixed right away, a small problem that'll become bigger later, or nothing at all. I'll tell you this, but as much as it's been raining as of late, the ground saturation is real. And if you haven't evaluated around your home, see if you have some waterproofing issues or some foundation issues, the cracking, the water going over your basement walls, you need to go outside and do that and probably have United Structural Systems come and see you. This is a company who cares and a company who trusts that you can trust. They guarantee their best every single time if you have those foundation issues or water waterproofing or flooding inside your basement. USS, they've been keeping homes dry and stable here for over 25 years, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky. You can reach them online at ussTN.com or simply call 615-488-7855.
Hour number 3 on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW brewed by 8th and Roast. In hour 4, we'll have John Buccigross of ESPN join us. Talk a little bit of hockey, a little bit of Nashville Predators with a big one tonight against St. Louis. We'll get to that coming up at 9:20. Your phone calls at 615-737-1045. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. Now that Stefon Diggs is in the AFC South and the Buffalo Bills have a need for a wide receiver, are you willing to make a trade with Buffalo, if you're the Titans, to move back from 7 to 28? Yes or no?
Me? Heck no. That's too far, and you got too many needs, and there's too much of high value that's left for you to go back that far. No, I'm saying no. Stand where you are. I much rather. I was having a conversation yesterday with one of my confidants. It's just like when it comes down to how you want to build this thing up to be sustainable. I think we spoke about this a little bit. I think Houston's gone 1 to 4. Like now, like they've gotten to number 4 already. All right, they skipped 2 and 3. And you look at how this team needs to set it up because of the lack of winning and the uncertainty still of new regime, new front office, new everything. Like, I think the proper steps have to be in order. You can't skip anything along this journey. That's my opinion, and I know that's probably, hey, move back that far to go get more capital. Yeah, I love that idea too, but when you got an opportunity to shore stuff up, because if we're judging this team right now off of the hottest team in the NFL as it pertains to the offseason, Houston really did have a cheat code still. They have an offensive line. They had a defense intact. Like, you got to think. They let, Grenard go?
Yep.
Like, he's been
Jonathan
killing
Grenard.
it. And then they've had D tackles. They've had linebackers. They've had everything. So I don't want to get this misconstrued when it comes down to what they've done to this point. They have a huge setup.
The Titans have not been in this spot in terms of picking inside the top 10 in a while. This has been, and credit some of it to the success that they've had, but they've been picking in the lower 20s, which in terms equals sometimes you can't get the best player on the board because a lot of those guys, that are standing out in the draft are in the top 10. What I would have to ask about this specific trade scenario, Will, is if you trade with the Buffalo Bills back to 28, what else am I getting with this trade? Because I can't just trade back. I need to really know what I'm getting out of this.
The precedent was set by the Atlanta Falcons when they traded up with the Cleveland Browns to select Julio Jones. And in this scenario, Buffalo would be moving up to 7 to either take Malik Neighbors or Roma Dunze. Mm-hmm. I do not believe that Marvin Harrison Jr. has any chance of being available with the number 7 overall pick. 0.
Okay.
So in this scenario, Atlanta traded a 2011 first-round pick, a 2011 second-round pick, a 2011 fourth-round pick, a 2012 first-round pick, and a 2012 fourth-round pick. In this scenario, the Buffalo Bills would get pick number 7. The Titans would get number 28, 60, and 128 in 2024, and Buffalo's first-round pick in 2025, and Buffalo's fourth-round pick in 2025.
If that's the scenario, bank it, book it, whatever you want to call it, I'm doing it. And I know that the offensive line is priority number 1. That left tackle spot is somebody you have to get that can, be that dude moving forward because you're trying to make this a homegrown line for the most part. But you can still find a left tackle, I feel like, or a tackle in this draft because there are many of them. There's a plethora of them, as many people would love to say. And you have the now, I guess, luxury of Bill Callahan. And you go back and you look at what Bill Callahan has done with specific players, even players that necessarily weren't when they were drafted as a left tackle. He's worked with specific players in kind of molding them into something else. Now, that they have to see the characteristics. He has to know he's getting the right guy that he could potentially mold him into a left tackle. He's got to have those traits, and we don't know what Bill Callahan is thinking. But if that's available with one of those guys that you can get later on, I don't know. I put Troy Fatanu out there. I don't know if that's a guy that you could potentially see being that left tackle since he's played a little at Washington. He's played, obviously, the other side too. But if it's all those things, I'm doing it because that continues to build your draft for the future too, where there's going to be just as many wide receivers next year, maybe a cornerback, wherever you're continuing to need to patch up things.
I'm still out. I'm just not willing to compromise at left tackle when we have to know how good Will Levis is after 2024. We have to. I would much rather try to make a deal with Las Vegas to go back to 13, where I could still take the second or third best tackle on the board, because I don't think Troy Fautanu is a left tackle. He's either a guard or a right tackle. Jordan Morgan is not a left tackle at that point. J.C. Latham, who's not going to be available at 28 either, he's not a left tackle.
How about Mims?
Tale Fuaga is not a left tackle. Amarius Mims,
I know
is he a
he's
left
work in
tackle or a right
progress.
tackle?
I think he can. Marius Mims, I'd switch him. I think he's capable.
Capable
But is he going to
of
be there at 28?
Switch him from what to what?
Right to left.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's capable. But is he going to be there at 28? I think he goes top 20 at this point, though.
If the Titans do that trade, Will Levis will not survive the full season. He won't.
But are we for sure that Alt is going to be there too? Like, are
Seven?
Are we okay with Olu Fashanu? If that is the case and Alt's not there, I'm just putting this out there. It's not 100% that he's going to be there. Are you all okay with Olu Fashanu?
I'm okay with Olu.
Okay.
But he's
I
not
am.
there at 28.
No, not at
No,
28.
I'm talking about
That's
just in
his
terms
point.
of, if you stay at 7.
That's why the trade back to 13 makes infinitely more sense for me.
You're just not going to get as much in the future, right?
I-
or this year.
I don't disagree with either of the points that you guys have made, but the reason for doing this, the Titans, in my limited amount of research I've done in the last 5 minutes, have only had 2 first-round picks once. Now, I could be wrong with that, but there's very limited sample size of them having multiple picks. And we were talking earlier in the show about how a lot of teams are going to try to emulate what Houston did to rebuild their team, but I think the Titans are much more in the landscape of rebuilding their team into what Philly did. Now, Philly traded away a quarterback, got a first-round pick back, and then eventually traded that first-round pick and acquired draft assets for years to come, multiple firsts for years to come. So if they were going to trade back and you were going to get a second first from Buffalo, which trading this far back is the only way you're going to get a future first. You're not going to trade an asset you have now to get a future first. And I would venture to say Rand Carthon does not expect to draft in the top 10 again. If you were going to do this would give you multiple assets to draft with in the future. And the whole reason this offseason that they went out and grabbed a lot of guys is because they have drafted so poorly. They have so few of their own guys that they drafted and developed to pay. Trading back and getting more assets would let a new general manager, a new head coach, get a lot of fresh swings in this and next year's draft, and potentially down the road give you guys that you will have to re-sign. So while you're stacking the salary cap up and bringing all these high-budget guys in, I like to parlay that with having a lot of draft picks and a lot of dice rolls to find guys who can fill in behind them. So
would you also get a third, right, this year?
You get a first,
you
a
don't
second,
have.
and a fourth. They don't have a third.
They don't. And so in this deal, though, would they get a third that we
Picks
just
28, 60, and 128.
Yeah.
So 128's a fourth.
Oh, it
plus,
is. It's okay.
So you would have 2 seconds, which the second would affectionately operate as your
Sure.
third round pick. So you'd get a first here, and it would be a late first, and you would kind of usurp some of those late teams that do have tackle needs, like the 49ers, the Ravens, the Kansas City Chiefs, to take a James Morgan, who was a left tackle. But that's my 4. If you were going to do it, it would give this general manager and front office a lot more dice rolls and bat swings to get quality players on rookie deals. But I can understand not wanting to pass up on potential Hall of Fame players
Right.
in the top 10.
So 128 technically is a fifth, but it's the first overall pick of the 5th round that Buffalo owns. So you are getting a 5th this year. So the trade value chart, the Jimmy Johnson trade value chart, gives the Titans, for the number 7 overall pick, that is a pick worth 1,500 points in the trade market. Pick number 28 is worth 660. Pick number 60 is worth 300. So that's 960 points. And then from there, pick number 128 is only worth 44 points. So you are losing a significant amount of value this year. and recouping that next season when you would have another first and another fourth.
And the negative behind that is you've seen a lot of teams trade away future picks because they don't want to trade out of this draft. There's a lot of talent at the top end of this draft. I think you saw it with the defensive lineman that was traded to the Jets, Hassan Reddick. That was a future second. With this trade with Stefon Diggs, that's a future second. L'Jarius Sneed, that's a future third. A lot of people are trading away future draft assets, so they're not being taken out of this draft, which is a great point by you, Ramon.
Ramon, what do you think of that scenario?
What do I think of it? 28 is almost all right. We're settling to just rebuild. That's what you're doing at 28. Because at 28, I'm probably going to take a shot because I know I got another first round in 2025. If I'm in a position where I say, all right, I like this guy, but I know he's going to be gone by the time I get to 60 in the second round, then I'm going to go ahead and take a dude. One dude that comes to mind, of course, I'll bring up a D tackle. I don't even want to give a name. D tackle at 28. I think you sleep a little bit better knowing that, look, that's a lower draft pick as far as the first round goes, and you stack and build. Again, I think trying to race with Houston right now is very unfair. It's like me going up against, heck, a sprinter in college. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's essentially what we're saying. We're trying to keep up the pace with what Houston has done. Like, we're looking at Houston as it stands right now and saying to ourselves, well, man, look what everything they're doing. No, again, I reiterate again, they have an all-pro left tackle. They got a Pro Bowl right tackle. They have a center and two guards that's very solid. They got 7 wide receivers we think they may keep on their roster on top of a defense and a top 3 pick when it comes down to Will Anderson Jr. We're not even mentioning the other first-rounders they got on that defense. They have stacked this up for years, and we've laughed at them. But now they're actually competing because they found their quarterback. I'm with Will on the idea that, look, Will Levis has to get protected. As much as I'm going to say, hey, go get a Dallas Turner type, his protection is huge, and it's team protection in the same sense. So I love the idea of all these picks. 28 is solid. If only we can, as a fan base and people who cover them, and say, all right, we'll sleep at night knowing that this isn't for this year. We're going to be competitive, but it's not for this year. That's what 28 does for me. You really do say what's the best available at that point. And that's the rich price to pay when, again, we've said Will Levis's clock is sped up. Are we really crafting this thing for Will Levis? Or are we setting this up for something else down the line? That's where you got to, at 28, that's a deep fall to say we still getting a tackle.
Right. And again, I reiterate, they have not picked in the top 10 in a long time, but this is also a new regime. Like, they're different in their approach. Rand has been aggressive. We all know that. So would he be aggressive in this type of move? Because this is a different type of a move, right, in terms of being aggressive, because you do get some future picks. And you're right. You can't just look at what Houston's doing and try to match everything they're doing. Some of the things you can't, but that's been a process building there to get what they have. You have to worry about your own team right now and those missing spots. And it is really hard to pass up on Joe Alt if he is there at 7. I've been on that since day one. It is very tough to do because you think he is the premier at that spot, and why would you pass up on him? However, if you are able to get a lot for him to move down, and Bill Callahan, I'm going to mention him again. You're sitting down with Bill Callahan. I'm guessing he's getting a lot of a lot of the input on these offensive linemen. Bill, what can you do with this guy? You've been called the wizard. What can you do with this guy if we get him at 28? Because we're thinking that he'd fall there. Again, there's a lot of right tackles that I don't know that can move to left. There's a lot of interiors that we've talked about that I don't think can move to left. But if Bill sees potential in one of these guys, that's where I think they say, yeah, let's do it.
I like the Las Vegas proposal just a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. And that proposal that ESPN's Teron Davenport tweeted yesterday, which I gave this exact scenario earlier this year because it's the same price that Buffalo moved up to take Josh Allen. Nearly the exact same trade. You would send picks number 7 and 106 to Vegas. You would get picks 13, 44, and 77. I remember giving that literally exact scenario like 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps you in a high-quality era. You're not bargain shopping with that pick. Again, that 2025 first. So that makes
nice.
That makes me argue with my compadres about that one.
And what if you do see it go backwards for Levis? I don't think that's happening. I really do think Levis is the future here. Let me just be on record saying that, at least right now from what I see. But let's say things blow up and you don't see that out of Levis next year, and you potentially have to move on. Maybe that gives you a little more flexibility in terms of, grabbing your quarterback and then another piece.
I don't think that first-round pick, though, if you give the Bills Rome Odunze, if you give the Bills Malik Neighbors, they're not picking in the top 20.
What if you're really bad next year, though, if you're the Titans, and then you get another first round? You get what I'm saying?
Another top 10.
Yeah,
I think the more aggressive move is to stick at 7 and take the blue chip player and say, can we give Will Levis a legitimate cornerstone left tackle right now to compete right now?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we admitting that we have so many holes to fill that this is going to take us a couple of years, so we don't need blue chip talent yet. We just need good bodies, and we need 2 extra picks than what we have right now in the 2024 draft to fill those holes. There has to be an admission from the Titans that there are too many holes to fill in one offseason.
Right.
So get the best fits and the best players that you believe make you a better team long term and not go for quantity. I think you have to start with quality, and you have to start at the position that allows you to correctly evaluate your quarterback, and that is left tackle. You cannot correctly evaluate Will Levis if you do not give him as much protection as you possibly can immediately.
Really quick, with the Raiders trade, I believe it was, that you mentioned with just going down to 13, do you still believe like an Alt or Fashanu are there?
Alt is definitely not there.
Yeah, that's okay. So you're still willing to do that, though?
Professional
more
is
so
still there. As far as left tackles go, Marius Mims is still there.
So ESPN's Matt Miller has 4 tackles that have a first-round grade.
And 2 of them are right.
2 of them are right tackles, Latham and Fuaga.
Mm-hmm.
And on the left side, you have Fashanu and Alt, who are the only first-round graded left tackles on ESPN's Matt Miller's list.
Like bona fide.
Interesting.
To me, it's too big of a risk going back to 13.
Okay.
For what position? For tackle? Or just in general?
For any position. Okay. It's too big of a risk that your guy is not there.
Yeah.
And I'm not giving Bill Callahan, cheap value brand ingredients to try to make a 5-course meal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving him the best possible ingredients to give me a future Hall of Famer, is what I'm doing. I'm not compromising on value for my coach, who I believe is the best at his position. Brian Callahan said it at the Combine. We want to mix special talent with a special coaching staff because we believe that gives you a special kind of player and an ability to have a future Hall of Famer. He didn't say that, but it's essentially what he's saying.
Yes, he wants a quality.
Yeah, and on right side, you don't even have your locked-in right tackle right now, so that will be a work in progress in terms of who will get that spot. So to have, a little bit more of a Lamborghini to work with on the left side and shore that up, that allows some more development, on that right side that he's going to have to work with right now, at least.
615-737-1045 is our number. Your reaction to this conversation on the Bills trade scenario with the Titans coming up. Plus, there was a claim made this morning on NFL Network that I think is completely ridiculous about one prospect. We'll give you that next.
It's the last Preds home game of the season and Fan Appreciation Night. On Saturday, April 13th, see the Preds take on the Columbus Blue Jackets at 7 p.m. at the Bridgestone Arena. Big Saturday night in Smashville as the Preds continue a hot streak in their march to the playoffs. Getting back on track. We're going to get there, all right? So get your tickets for the game at NashvillePredators.com/tickets. The Preds are pushing to the playoffs, and the best way to score the most saves and access to the Stanley Cup playoffs tickets is by becoming a season ticket member. Lock in your seats at NashvillePredators.com/season tickets.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Wrapping up hour number 3 on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW brewed by 8th and Roast. In 15 minutes, we have got your chance to head to Geodis Park this weekend. Nashville SC back in action at the Castle against Philadelphia Union. We have got a family 4-pack for the people that we will give away. We'll give you the chance to win in 15 minutes.
We didn't even get to talk about last week. Dude, you got to call a crazy goal.
Oh, my gosh.
Was that Godoy?
Audubon Godoy, the Panamanian, his first goal since match day 1, 2022. And it is the goal of the week in MLS. Probably the goal of the season so far.
It was easily the coolest thing I've ever seen live at a soccer game.
Me too, actually.
So you were there.
I was there.
Okay.
I snuck down to the supporter section,
Yep.
and
Look at you.
we actually, I was on the right side, right time, right place. It was awesome.
That's
The
awesome.
crowd went absolutely bonkers. I've never seen a bicycle kick in person.
It was insane. I don't know if you heard our call on it. Me and Lucas just freaked out.
That's
in the
what you
moment.
got to do, right?
That thing, I've never had more interaction on one of my broadcast clips that I put out than that one. Buck and Robert were FaceTiming me and Lucas in the broadcast booth while we were on air. But as the broadcast professionals that we are, we were not distracted.
Yeah, I apologize. I was hammered.
You guys.
How do
At least he
you?
admits it.
And this is gonna sound crazy me saying this, but how do you put the words together to make a call good like that? Because I'd probably just be like, wow.
That's pretty much what I said.
Yeah. I mean, I heard that, but how do you just?
Some of them I have scripted, so
I don't want you to give all your details,
it's okay.
but like, how
I
do
think-
you bring it out to know like when to go, when to be quiet? Because there's an element that I've recognized with people that do it. Like, I got to shut up too.
Yeah. Let him breathe.
my personal philosophy is to script or have one thing in mind to kind of get the ball rolling and then let it breathe and let the moment take over a little bit from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different way. There's not a right way to do it. And I have not been doing this long enough to have the best way to do it, obviously. So I'm just trying to figure this out as I go, as I learn the business and try to improve. But
a lot of it probably goes to your prep too, right? Like just knowing these guys, knowing little things about them, creating a little soliloquy with your words. That's what you guys are good at.
well, I appreciate it. I don't have the magic fairy dust. I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of a fan and just react the way a fan would and just have fun.
What's
Just
the
be
most
authentic.
annoying thing you've heard? Like, because you obviously have broadcasters you really like that do play-by-play, and then some that you don't prefer. Like, what's an annoying kind of thing in terms of a call that you would
Well,
say?
he'd
hey,
also be talking about Lucas, though, if he says what's annoying him.
Well, no, Lucas does an outstanding job.
I know.
I'm not talking about him specifically.
Here, I don't want you to step on any of your
Oh
people
my
you work with
gosh.
toes,
No,
but I'll,
Lucas is great.
I'll
That's
throw
my
a-
guy.
I
I'll
was
throw a
thinking
guy under the
more
bus.
national.
Charlotte FC's
Okay.
announcer is very annoying. And Will, you don't have to say anything. I don't want you to get in trouble. But both the Hornets and the soccer, both those guys just scream and get really loud. Their voice just cracks all the time.
I don't like homers.
Okay, gotcha.
Everyone's a homer in a context, but I am not. It is not my preference. And again, in play-by-play, there's not a right or wrong answer. It's all about your personal preference. But I do not prefer the yell and scream and, oh my gosh, everything is incredible and this is the best moment ever. And then when the other team scores, it's just goal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, not really my style, but I think there is a line also between being funny and entertaining and trying to make things about yourself. That is a
Right.
difficult line for some broadcasters, where in the moment they'll try to make a big moment in a game about them versus about what actually happened. And I won't give specific examples to protect my own integrity on that. But there are examples of broadcasters who try to maybe like put their own spin on something a little too heavily. But anyway.
Gotcha. I just want to tell you, there's more
thank
to
you.
it than just talking and calling out plays.
It's quite
to
a
that
process.
point right there of not being homers. I've heard Mike Keefe sometimes on there and be like, you do know you cover the Titans, right? Like, why are you talking so good about these people? But he's been a guy to say you're supposed to actually paint the picture on both sides of it. If the Titans do something great, he's going to lean in. But if guys are having a day, I'll be like, in a good way, though. He's fair on both sides is what I've heard from him.
That's why Mike is the best of the best for many reasons. Ian Rappaport of NFL Network just now said it's been a big week for Michael Penix Jr. I would say at this point he's likely a first-round pick and likely to go in the first half of the first round. Bull crap.
Here we go with the lies of the season.
Bull crap. Not happening.
I call it. I say I'm going to lean into it and believe it.
You
Why?
know,
I do. Just looking back at this tape over the last couple of days, he's shown some durability. He's shown he can take some hits. He know how to get down. And one thing about Michael Penix Jr. is he can throw it. I don't know if I'm taking the first round, like chance on him, but I can see a team personally saying, screw what the medical says. He's durable all this past year and the year before that. I think I see teams taking that shot, especially in this passing league. And if he don't make it, guess what? He's serviceable enough, smart enough that, you'll be middle of the road. I like his playmaking ability.
you got to be a team, too, who's, like you said, willing maybe to take a little bit of the risk for it not to work out. And a lot of these teams they're all planning for it to work out. I mean, especially with quarterbacks, it's kind of hit and miss. We never know what's going to happen, from being a first-round pick to a second-round pick in Levis, where we're still trying to figure out if he's going to be the dude. So if you have, I guess, the wiggle room to do that, and you think Penix definitely could be the guy, he has been healthy the last 2 years with the knees, and I know that his health background goes back pretty deep. You're still rolling the dice, though, on a guy that has clearly dealt with things in his past, and he's only getting older. But I do think he has the tools. I just don't know how far I expect him to move up, because we do always hear lies this time of year. And that included Will Levis, too, where I think on Reddit or something, there was all this information that made you think oh, Levis is going to be a top 10 pick last year. That clearly did not happen.
I think Michael Penix is this year's Hendon Hooker. Medical red flags, albeit not the same. Hendon Hooker had a current torn ACL, and Penix has had the back issues, back and neck, I believe, neck issues in the past. The systems are similar with what Washington was doing, with what Tennessee was doing. Remember this time last year when we started talking about Hendon Hooker, what was it, pick 22 to the Vikings? Hendon Hooker went 68th. I think it's going to be the same thing. We're going to start talking about Michael Penix in the 20s. I think he's closer to pick 70 than he is pick 32, personally. I think he's a third-round pick, Penix. But we'll see.
We'll see.
You get the fifth-year option if you do take the risk in the first, and that's more control over a quarterback that you want more time to evaluate. And there is value in that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think we're so bored that we're going to start propping up quarterbacks like that who are not first-round picks, personally. 615-737-1045, our number. Headlines from the morning. Some in college hoops, one big one in the NFL, and your phone calls coming up next. You deserve all the comforts of home, including endless hot water at your fingertips. What's going on? It's Will Bowling here from my friends at Lee Company. Tankless water heaters powered by new recirculation systems save you energy, money, time, and space. Look, these are all important things as a homeowner. Well, Lee Company, they've got a great offer for you as well. That's important. They're going to save you some money. $750 off a tankless water heater when you purchase a recirculation system. Let me say that again. $750 off a tankless water heater when you purchase a recirculation system. And to make the heater even sweeter, qualified buyers receive 18 months of 0% financing. Take advantage of this offer today and call my friends at Lee Company at 615-567-1000 or go to leecompany.com/promotions to get $750 off a tankless water heater. That's 615-567-1000 or online at leecompany.com/promotions. Lee Company, all you need.
9:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Big trade yesterday involving the Texans and the Bills, sending Stefon Diggs to the Texans. They also got a 2024 6th round and 2025 5th round pick from the Bills. The Bills receiving a 2025 2nd round pick that the Texans received from the Minnesota Vikings when sending off their 1st round pick. The trade gives C.J. Stroud a bevy of weapons, including Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz, and the newest weapon, Stefon Diggs. Tampa Bay Buccaneers yesterday getting active on the defensive side, signing outside linebacker Randy Gregory. Gregory had 3.5 sacks playing for the Broncos last year and finishing the year with the 49ers. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Fourth and final hour of the show, 9 a.m. in Nashville as we transition into 60 more minutes of RKW. Ramon, Kayla, and Will is brewed by 8th and Roast. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. You can follow the show at Ramon, Kayla, Will on the artist formerly known as Twitter, where our question of the day this morning: what is the best option for the Titans at number 7? Trade back, Joe Alt no matter what, or best wide receiver available? 59% of you predictably say Joe Alt no matter what. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, our producer. I'm Will Bowling. Streaming live at 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch.
Push, please.
Slight advantage to Robert there. Just a little bit.
All good.
By the way, it's Keith Bullock's birthday. Happy birthday, Bully.
Happy
Birthday.
birthday.
Yeah, it's our guy.
Hey, happy birthday, Bully.
Somebody keep stalling so I can get the. All right, never mind.
Y'all are. Oh.
Birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
Y'all are always much more well-versed on birthdays than I am. I could not, other than my family and my girlfriend, could not tell you any of that.
I'll give you the Titans gave me a little heads up on Twitter. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I'll take that. Hey, happy birthday, Bully. Celebrate. It's a beautiful day today considering the storms we
It
just
is.
got through.
Extra toffee coffee I just love for our guy this morning.
Yum.
Big time. Big time right there.
Let's go to Micah in Nolansville on the phone lines, wanting to talk Titans this morning. What's up, Micah?
Hey, I have 2 questions on the Titans. So the first one was, is there any way the Titans would trade back in the 2nd round further back to maybe get, I don't know if it's too much for a 3rd or something like that because of how much depth is in the draft, and then still pick at 7? And then my other question is, how many more free agency moves do you guys expect the Titans to make?
Thank you, Micah.
Can I say on the free agency side
Yeah,
real
go
quick?
ahead.
Go for it.
So I think, Micah, on the free agency side, Rand Carthon made it clear in the presser this week that they're focused on the draft right now for the next few weeks. So I would not foresee any free agency moves until after the draft, after they address what they need to. And then I think you perhaps could see a couple moves, possibly at safety. We'll see what other positions after the draft.
Yeah, no doubt. The thing about moving back, man, is you take yourself out of that quality that's at the top end of this draft, too. Are you talking about moving back in the 2nd, trying to get a 3rd or something like that? Like, that's risky. Again, the guys that you have on your board, you got to rearrange all of that. It really is a touch-and-go situation with how you move around in this draft because, again, and no disrespect to anybody that lived that life, but it's easy to do it on a computer as opposed to actually dealing with people in real life as far as, like, this is a real game and real jobs are on the line when it comes to trading in and out as far as how you're trying to build your team. But what I'm saying is this isn't a video game. This is essentially people's jobs, lives, and careers on the line when you decide to move back and you know that's a piece that you want. I'm of the mindset, and I love it, that this team does need more picks. It could use more picks. Mm-hmm. We heard Rand say a couple of weeks ago on our show, they knew they didn't have a 3rd rounder for all year. So you operate as you need to when it comes down to how you continue to grow and build this squad up.
Interesting that two different draft analysts this week have each proposed scenarios where the Titans would move up in the second round. Field Yates, over the weekend, said the Titans would move up from 38 to 33 in order to take Darius Robinson, the pass rusher out of Missouri. And then Chad Forbes, NFL Draft Bites on Twitter yesterday, says Titans trade pick 38 and 106 to the 49ers for picks 31 and 251 and select Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy, wide receiver out of Texas at 31. Honestly, I think you could make the argument the Titans are in trade-up scenario at 38, as aggressive as they have been this offseason. If they really believe they can go for it and compete in the AFC South, maybe that's what they do.
They're still having to give up, though, right? And
they would still keep the same amount of picks in this scenario. So they would trade 38 and 106, and they would get 31 and 251. I don't think that's realistic, but it is interesting to me that two different people have suggested trades up from 38 this week for the Titans.
It's going to be fascinating. And the closer we get, the more answers we'll absolutely know. But I legitimately am just like, best available at this point. And this is an arms race because you judge what your division opponents do as far as the AFC South. But I think it's two different races right now. One needs to be a marathon. The other one needs to just be keeping pace in a sense. Who's the pace setter right now? Heck, compete with Indy as it pertains to the talent. And hopefully with all things we've heard too, there's an element of coaching that goes into play when it comes to winning and scheming and the schematics of everything involved in it. It ain't just the players. The players help out a ton. They help out a crap ton. But when it comes to actually winning games, what is your game plan like? How do you stack up? What are the injuries? I look more or less to the idea of the quality of the depth than almost trying to keep up with the Joneses at this point right now.
Let's give away some tickets. We've got Nashville SC, Philadelphia Union tickets. Philadelphia Union, the 2022 Eastern Conference champions in Major League Soccer. Nashville SC back in action at the Castle this Saturday in your flagship station for NSC. Has your chance to win a family 4-pack. You can take mom and them. You can take everybody to see the boys in gold as they host Philadelphia at Geodis Park. Be caller number 5 right now to win, thanks to our Window Nation ticket window at 615-737-1045. That is 615-737-1045. Nashville SC and Philadelphia Union. That will be a hot ticket. Saturday night in the Music City, 7 o'clock pregame coverage, 7:30 kick on the 104.5 The Zone app on Saturday night.
We got a lot of good stuff going on here this week for sports in Nashville. Got Preds, we got Nashville SC. What else do we got? Oh, Sounds are back?
Yeah, Sounds started Thursday.
Sure
or
did.
Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Nashville in summertime is the best place to be, man. Absolutely.
I'm just glad the rain held off for them the other night.
Mm-hmm.
Gave them a late opening day.
I mean, it's spring in Tennessee. It's rain and dark skies at any point in time, actually.
Yep. Just get April over with.
Never stop the Woo Girls. They're all a good time in Nashville. No. That's for sure, for sure.
615-737-1045. Again, looks like we have got a winner. So Bert will talk with our ticket winner. Play next time. We'll be having a lots more Nashville SC tickets to give away. They have had a gauntlet of a schedule these past few weeks. They have had every team that's made MLS Cup final of the last 2 seasons in the last 3 weeks.
Wow.
Dang.
LAFC, who won in 2022 over Philadelphia, who they play Saturday, and sandwiched in the middle, Columbus, who was the Eastern Conference and MLS champions last season.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a good time in the booth for you, Will.
And then they get a bye week a week from Saturday. Then they go to Miami after that on April 20th.
Where do you think they could go this year in terms of playoffs?
Oh, I mean, they made the playoffs every season.
Yeah, I know.
That's certainly the expectation for that team, for sure. Eastern Conference is just loaded this year.
We talked to, what was it?
Taylor
Twellman about that.
Yeah. Hey, it's grown. That's just what it is just going to take over, I think, after a while. At least be one of the mainstays here. It is a mainstay here, but just be one of those hey, I'm not just signing my kids up for soccer. Like, you're actually in it, and it's a part of the American culture. I love it.
You got Premier League mornings on NBC coming to Nashville this weekend, too, on Lower Broadway. NBC's Premier League coverage will be live from Nashville.
That's huge.
This weekend. A weekend after last Sunday's Man City Arsenal game was the most watched Premier League match in U.S. history at 2.12 million viewers. For perspective, the Stanley Cup final averaged 2.6 million last year. I think we are at the point where soccer is equal with hockey in this country.
I never thought that
Might
would
be.
happen.
I think we are getting to that point.
I never.
We are watching that many of us are watching an English sport on a Sunday afternoon, akin to the hockey community watching that in the United States. It's happening here in prime time for a trophy as well, for a championship.
And on top of that, the backing they have behind it for more exposure.
Yeah.
That's what I think it boiled to.
It's
back
crazy.
in my era, like when I was growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, I know that's kind of crazy to think, right? But soccer is one of those things, like I picked it up with my hands. Like I was dribbling a soccer ball with my hands instead of my feet.
You'd be a heck of a goalie.
I might give it a shot.
That's the thing. If you look at soccer in terms of as youth, you all played it at one point, it feels like. I mean, I played it at one point. And I didn't even really like soccer.
I was not allowed to.
But it's one of those youth sports now that a lot of people get their kids into it for the coordination, for everything. But then, if you stick with it, you stick with it. And it's growing so much. And they're also bringing over these names that, they're a little bit older, but they're still the top of their game here in the U.S. And you're seeing an increase for that reason, too.
Someone else who is at the top of their game is Toby, who is going to go see
All right.
Geodis, whatever that is called, Philadelphia.
Geodis Park.
Geodis Park.
Soccer.
Philadelphia Union, Nashville SC.
There you go.
Congratulations, man.
Lucas Panzica and Eddie Carvacho on the call this weekend.
Ooh, what a cool
Okay.
name. Carvacho.
Eddie is awesome.
Eddie Carvacho.
Does a great job. Great job. Yeah, I was not allowed to play soccer as a kid.
Yeah, why not?
Those were for football Saturdays.
I
I remember exactly how the conversation went. Hey, can I play soccer? Well, so soccer is usually in the fall, right? Yeah, right. Would you rather go to a Tennessee football game or play soccer? Well, I mean, I guess football. Correct. Yes, you would. And that's just fine. My athletic career worked out just fine. I'm not bitter about any of this.
You are the ones that Bo Nix was talking about.
Right. 100%.
Oh, goodness.
I'm right there with you,
goodness.
too. Which one you want to do?
Coming up next, ESPN's John Buccigross joins us. He will be on the play-by-play call tonight for Preds and Blues, exclusively on ESPN Plus and Hulu. We'll talk some hockey with him, get a preview of a huge one tonight inside Bridgestone Arena next. Thursday morning rolls on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW brewed up by 8th and Roast. And if you miss a minute of RKW, maybe your work commute hasn't started yet, maybe it's already finished, you can find the Ramon, Kayla, and Will podcast feed wherever you download podcasts. Check out all of our interviews, including Coach Mack earlier this morning with Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson. I am Will Bowling. Let's talk some Nashville Predators hockey, as we are joined right now by ESPN's John Buccigross, who is on the call tonight for Preds and Blues. Big one in Bridgestone Arena. What's up, John? How are you?
Hello, gang. Good to be with you in Mashville.
Absolutely.
Great
Thanks
to
for
have you
joining
on.
us.
Did you go out last night, Bucci?
We were out. We made a little tour of the Broadway. Had a good time, and soaked it all in. It's amazing, this place. The energy, it never stops.
No.
It really doesn't. And we are trying to get back to the energy level of that 2017 Stanley Cup final here in Nashville. John, as you look at from the broad perspective of this Predators team and just the incredible run they've had over the last month, what do you like the most about this group right now?
Yeah, I'm really psyched to do the game tonight. I haven't called a game in Nashville before, so I was here for the draft last June, but first time I get to call a game. Obviously, they're fourth best attendance in the league, 101% filled, so I can't wait for the energy. So obviously, they're feeding off the energy. It's an interesting team. They're an older team, the top five in terms of oldest teams, like 29, right around 29 years of age, but they have these other younger guys who are trying to find their way. So it's a really interesting balance, and obviously, I did their opening night game on ESPN as well. That was down in Tampa Bay, and you could sense there was something kind of there. It took a while to get going, and then of course this last month or so, it's just been off the charts, scorching hot. So it's just kind of a mix of stuff. With Andrew Brunette is a fun guy to play for, and offensive-minded guy. Barry Trotz is now running an organization, calling the shots. So maybe it gave it a bit of a freshness for the older guys, the younger blood coming in like Evangelista and Novak. And so it's an interesting vibe. It's a good vibe. Obviously, it's working.
John Buccigross of ESPN, our guest on the call tonight, ESPN Plus of Nashville Predators and St. Louis Blues. John, when you look at then what this team was when you saw them so earlier in the season, and as you prepare to see them again tonight, what's the biggest difference you see in this Preds team from then to now?
Just like you're coming together, obviously new guys, it's whether it's a radio show or a hockey team, it takes a while, right? And you have an idea what your show might be like. And then 6 months later, you realize, well, it looks nothing like what we first planned it on being. And that can happen with a hockey team too. You just you find your way and what really works and what doesn't work. But it really does start with that first line to have, just clicking with Nyquist and Ryan O'Reilly, and then Philip Forsberg, obviously, being the beneficiary of two really smart veteran hockey players, kind of that veteran, thing we talked about. And so he's having a career year, and Nyquist is having a career year. So you start with that first line, and it was such a smart sign to bring in Ryan O'Reilly. Then everything else has a good foundation. Then the young guys can kind of be streaky. Evangelista he's kind of streaky. He'll go 8-9 games without a goal, and then he'll score for a few. Then he'll kind of hot and cold. So to have that stabilizing force, and then of course Yossi is having another award-winning year, whether it's Norris or MVP. It's just a good balanced team of people who know what they're doing, and again energized by Brunette and Trotz and what the urgency and the seriousness that they bring.
John Buccigross joining us this morning on RKW, talking a little NHL, talking a little Preds. So getting more into Philip Forsberg. And look, he's been on this roster for a while now, and we've seen the skill set. We've seen the talent of Forsberg in the past, but it's been a little inconsistent in terms of his plays. Like, he gets hot at certain times. This has been start to finish this year. Other than being on that top line, like you mentioned, what have you seen a difference in his play, Bucci, that's allowed him this kind of more consistent success?
Yeah, maybe just reach a certain age and you realize, man, I want to leave my mark. I want to make sure when people, look at me on hockeyreference.com and look at my stats and say, wow, this was a really good player. This was like one of the best players of his era. And so to be back to 40 goals, I'm sure, for him, he's being that age and turning 30 this summer. He's a 1994 birth year. He's like, well, okay, this is the last year of my 20s. I got to I got to hunker down and get going here. Like, this thing it's not almost over, but we're certainly on the backside. And every year in your 30s for a hockey player is, a blessing, especially a productive year. You don't know when you're going to lose that half step and things can start to linger and injuries. And then suddenly you're just not the guy you were, and then you're done. Then you're out of the game. So it can happen fast. So, I think maybe that kind of realization, and to see him fight this year, that was something that was, Mo Sider of the Red Wings. That was like, wow, I didn't realize. I realize he's got all that testosterone from his hair and mustache, but it's good. It was good to see him use it in a violent nature now. Once in a while we need that in hockey. So that was pretty cool. So you're right though. You want and expect so much more of him because he just looks the part. He's like, if there was a hockey movie, he'd be like the leading guy, and he can shoot it, he can rip it, and so you do come away wanting more sometimes. It's good to see him deliver this year.
When it comes to these last 3 games, Preds went on the road, dropped to Arizona, really good Colorado team. And then, this week earlier, dropping a game to Boston. How do they bounce back this Thursday tonight in a game that's pretty important against the St. Louis Blues that are still trying to gain some ground for that wild card spot?
Yeah, they're kind of there. They both have 7 games left. Obviously, a regulation Blues win tonight puts them 4 points behind. But, the Nashville still has, more regulation wins, and that's the tiebreaker. So they're really 5 points behind. They're not 4 points behind because they can't finish tied. Right now, it looks like Nashville is going to play Dallas or Vancouver in the first round. If they, we'll see where they finish that first or second wild card. It's too tight to call there with LA right around them. So they'll be fine. They're going to make the playoffs, and like I said, probably play Dallas or Vancouver, so plan accordingly. But, I watched the Boston game, and that was a pretty good game. They outchanced the Bruins, and just kind of those lingering things. When you're winning, you win those games, or when you're losing, you lose those games, even though it was only a couple losing streak before they lost to make it 3 in a row. So I just keep doing what you're doing. It's a long season. And, the Blues are where they are because of who they are, just slightly average team. So I would think they could bounce back tonight and have a good effort and play like they did against Boston, but against a team that's not as good, so they should win.
John Buccigross with us this morning talking Preds and NHL, and also Bucci. By the way, one of the coolest names in all of sports, okay? I just got to throw that out there.
That's sweet. You're so sweet.
You start off with John and ending with Buccigross. Like, that's taking it to a next level right there.
And you get to call him Bucci.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a thing. But another thing is this. In the world of hockey, when you see a team like the Preds go on the winning streak in the month of March the way they did and the points scored, do you look at that right before the playoffs and say, hey, was that too much too soon? Or can you get that back going into the later stretch of the season?
Yeah, that seems to be a thing because hockey, I think, is the most emotional sport of them all. It's just, and I think you need that momentum. You need that dopamine drip in your head to go to the rink because it's a hard game, right? It's hard to play. It's cold. You got to put all that equipment on and tie your skates, and then there's a puck going 100 miles an hour, and people have sticks, and then there's this wall that doesn't move, and the ice hurts if you fall. It's like there's a lot going on out there. So it's not easy. It's difficult. So you need that carrot. You need something to play for. And when you have that winning streak, it just makes going to the rink. It makes all that hard stuff easier. And then you can be better than the other guy who's not feeling very good. And all the hard stuff is making him worse because it's frustrated and difficult. And so, when you have that winning streak dopamine drip every day and that pursuit to get it again and to win, it's something. It's such a high. And that's why winning streaks, that's why fans love them. They like to see them extended. It's why players at the end of a game during a winning streak in any sport get so desperate. They want to keep it going. They want to keep that feeling going. And so you're right. There can be a bit of a lull once you lose a couple and it's gone and you're back to reality. And then the playoffs are coming and like, okay, how do I feel right now? Sometimes we can't control how we feel, whether it's good or bad. We wake up. It's like, man, I felt so good yesterday. Now I feel like crap today. What's up? And so that's like that. You're right. And so I think that's a real thing in hockey when you peak too early or when you want to peak. The Panthers peaked perfectly last spring. They barely got in the playoffs, and then they got by Boston. Then they went on that high and almost won the Stanley Cup. So, that's something we're going to find out. We don't know until they play the games. But overall, I think they have a good structure of a team from a goalie to defenseman. We talked about the top line and people contributing in the bottom nine. With good roles and defined roles. That's what Barry Trotz is so good at, building organization, team building, like a savant when it comes to dealing with people and players. And he can help support Andrew Brunette there and give him a team that he knows can win. Like, he knows the formula.
You mentioned age earlier, as far as the age of team and players and stuff like that. And hockey's one of those sports that you see guys like, Sidney come in, and now kind of Bedard come in, and you wait to see the return on either the talent and the team perspective. Chicago not holding up their end of the deal when having a number 1 overall pick like that. How long does it take to see the results of a hockey team with really good talent? Because I think on football and maybe basketball, sometimes you see it at media. We're talking, of course, Titans in a sense, and you see what Houston's done, or you look at Kansas City when they got Patrick. Mm-hmm. How quick do you see that return on investment when it comes down to high-quality generational guys?
It can be quick. Like football, hockey's a young man's game. It really is. It's speed and stamina and bouncing back from physical play so you can be good again the next week, because injury, they're both physical games. So the younger you are, the quicker you recover. So your recovery time is quicker when you're younger. Now, some people don't have the natural ability or wisdom or spatial awareness to be good young. It takes time. And other people are. And some organizations get lucky, and when they have the first pick of the draft, like Chicago did, they have a Bedard. Now, if they might get lucky again and have the first pick this summer, and then there's Macklin Celebrini, another kind of a close to generational kind of superstar coming, they might get him too. And that's what happened with Crosby. The Penguins were bad. They got the first pick. They got Crosby. And then suddenly they get Evgeny Malkin. So now they have Malkin and Crosby. They can build around that with smart GM moves. Okay, we make sure we support them. And bam, Crosby's winning, in his 3rd or 4th year in the league. And then he goes on to win, a couple more. So, yeah, that's the key, is getting lucky with the draft, hitting on some maybe 3rd or 4th rounders, and then boom, whether it's CJ Stroud, you could be good right away. And then if you support them and you build your team smartly, now they could be really good this year. They could win a couple playoff games, maybe Houston. So, yeah, it's just that luck with the draft and then getting the right guy. Like, Sidney Crosby's like a CEO athlete. That's how he thinks. And so for 20 years, he's the Penguins' face. And you don't always get a guy. Sometimes you get a clown. But, Bedard's cut in that cloth. Yeah. And when you can get a guy like that's everything.
John Buccigross, ESPN, our guest here this morning.
This is a fine performance, I got to say. I have given you a fine performance. You're getting my A material right now.
I love it.
See, that is the challenge, John, of
I'm
anyone.
Giving you philosophy. I'm giving you history.
This is the trouble of anyone who comes to Nashville and enjoys Nashville,
right,
and then on the ice has to then give their best performance the next day. It is part of the inherent home ice advantage the Predators have, is you are often getting a couple of whiskey and cokes or a couple of cold beverages from some players the night before they have played on the ice in Nashville.
Yeah, the espresso martini is kicking in right now.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I'll just say it. You're welcome, okay? And welcome back anytime, too, by the way.
It's A+ stuff you're giving us, John.
My kind of place. You always get Bucci's A game.
Well, John, I know you had a thread a couple of days ago, shifting gears a little bit, about hosting SportsCenter with John Anderson. I have had the privilege of doing some track meets with John and doing some pen relays and some other things, and I love working with the guy. I won't put you on the spot and ask for your number 1 favorite memory of anchoring SportsCenter with him, because I imagine you've got maybe 100 different episodes of SportsCenter that would come to mind. But how much fun have the two of you had, and just how much fun is it being the voice of so many late nights for those of us that are staying up and watching SportsCenter after games like this?
No, it's so cool, so grateful. Yeah, we're generationally pretty much linked. We get the same references, the sports references, the pop culture references. We were both Letterman guys who just loved David Letterman and how he kind of changed comedy and late night. And, so we're just generationally, really linked up well. And that's the cool part. So when you're there with someone 1, 2 in the morning and you make each other laugh and you get each other's references, and sometimes you do the show for yourself because you wonder if anybody's even watching and you want to make sure you entertain yourself because it is 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning. But yeah, and then also just how he pushed me. I think we pushed each other. We both, love the written word, and that was the big separator at SportsCenter when we were first hired. You moved up the food chain at SportsCenter and ESPN with how well you wrote. And that's not the case anymore. We're an image society. It's Instagram, it's TikTok. It's more about image. than is the written word. And we both have a deep love for the written word, and we took that seriously when we did a lead-in for a Predators Blues game or an obituary when a sports legend passed away. Just really taking that 20, 30 seconds that we have on camera to write ourselves, because we write everything, and to give it our own voice and our own feel, and that's what I really will miss is anchoring with John, and just I know he's going to bring his A game as a writer. I can't look like a fool out here, so I got to keep up. So just trying to keep up with him made me better. And like you said, doing Sports Center for all those middle school kids who woke up the next morning, eat their cereal, and watched the Sports Center rerun. I get that story a lot, and it's really touching, and it really that one really. Because I can see my kids doing that, so that's why that story touched me of all the kinds of stories people have about watching ESPN and growing up with us.
What would you describe this town like in terms of hockey support? And I know we saw it there in 2017, and just the craziness and in a good way on Broadway, and all the gold as they made their way through the Stanley Cup playoffs. But how would you describe this city at this point as a hockey city, since you've been to so many, and this is more of a non-traditional one?
Yeah, I always say hockey is great enough to be enjoyed anywhere in the world. It doesn't really matter. It's a great sport, so wherever you play it, it's going to be good, and people will enjoy it and like it and fall in love with it because what it does to you. But I kind of compare it, to Las Vegas. This in terms of this is their baby. Like the Predators will always be their first, baby. A team didn't move in from somewhere else, or it's like this is ours. And it's almost like that's why I think Vegas will always like the Golden Knights the best. Now maybe an expansion NBA team will help that too. But the Raiders moved in, the A's might move in. These people already have a history. But for the Vegas Golden Knights to be the first, and we're born right there. They really talk, especially the people who lived here. I'm sure that's the same here in Nashville. The people who've been here for 20, 30, 40 years and raised their kids here, and maybe their grandparents, and they're in that, as opposed to the people who moved in after it got popular. Those are the people that you look for, and I'm sure to them the Predators have a huge meaning.
Preds and Blues tonight. That's where you can hear John Buccigross, Ryan Callahan on the call, ESPN Plus. John, you were right. This was A stuff. Thank you for joining us this morning. And if we do get a deep Preds playoff run, we need to definitely do it again soon. Yeah,
I hope I get our playoff schedule will be out soon. That's kind of last minute stuff. So I'd love to come back here when it's warmer.
Yes.
Absolutely. John, thanks so much, man. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
There he is, John Buccigross, giving us some great stuff here this morning and talking hockey.
Even after a late night out, I could tell him and Subban and crew got, they went on Broadway. They didn't just go to one bar.
Yeah.
To a couple.
I mean, can you ever just do one? The answer is no.
Probably not.
Absolutely not.
He is 100% right, and I think that's really cool about John Anderson and the writing piece of it, because, man, that was the coolest part about Buccigross and Anderson on SportsCenter. Was, it's like I said earlier in the last hour, there is a fine line between being funny and entertaining, but making something about you in a way that's disingenuous. For those guys, it was always authentic. Of she's a beauty, that number 9 here on Top 10 Plays. Those were kind of the things that they were saying. And genuinely, I raised my hand when he said, it's cool hearing people say they grew up watching us in the morning before they went to school in middle school.
I did.
Literally exactly the scenario I was in.
That's awesome.
I remember telling John Anderson that the first time I worked with him. It's dude, you have no idea how many times I've watched SportsCenter with you. I was reading a promo for ESPN on that broadcast they did a few years ago of coming up, tonight it's Mets and Phillies or whatever. And then John talks in my ear. He goes, yeah, and then a SportsCenter with John Anderson afterwards. Those guys are so real and authentic.
And that's
great.
And I don't say this in a bad way. That's what it used to be. More of the originals where I loved that.
Yeah. It takes you back. And especially when it's good, it lasts forever too,
Stuart Scott is cool as the other side of the pillow.
I'm just glad he entertained me enough to let me realize, you asked some cool
Those
enough
were
stuff.
Some good perspective questions.
I gotta get more.
Those.
I gotta get better in my hockey knowledge.
Those were some good ones.
Y'all taught me in the break, which is cool.
Yeah.
615-737-1045. The final call for phone calls. Headlines on the way out. Coming up next. Wrapping up the show on RKW, brewed by 8th and Roast, Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Coming up tomorrow morning, our weekly conversation with VolQuest's Brent Hubbs, 7:20, where you can hear perhaps the premier Vols insider. He will join us to discuss the latest on the Lady Vol search, get into a little bit of Tennessee basketball transfer portal notes, as well as the Vols begin to go shopping in the transfer portal. I saw a report actually last night from Grant Ramey of VolQuest about names to watch in the transfer portal. There is one local name to watch for Tennessee Vols basketball, according to VolQuest's Grant Ramey, friend of the show, in Belmont's Cade Tyson, who reportedly has been contacted by Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, and Tennessee.
That's got to be hard for KC over there, because it is a prime place to put players.
Absolutely.
Right?
Casey's all here like if you've ever watched the 5 Heartbeats, I'm out here every night trying to fight for my love.
And I know I do work with Belmont. I love the Bruins, and I hate it. I hate the transfer portal most for outstanding coaches who do the legwork, find very good prospects in high school. They talk to kids over 3 seasons in the AAU circuit. Many times these coaches are the only ones sitting watching a certain kid, and then that kid explodes, whether it's literally growing 4 or 5 inches, like the way Dalton connected, and then the transfer portal opens and you have challenges with that. And I think, again, it's in a lot of ways it's pay for play, and the market dictates what you're going to get paid. But thought that was interesting last night from Grant Ramey, one of those names that I think this town would recognize. So Casey is as good of a coach as there is in the state and in college hoops, and I do hate it for outstanding mid-major programs like Belmont, although I am biased.
Yeah,
I love Belmont.
All good, man. Tough, though. He'll bounce back. Casey always does. Always puts a good product out there and find those hidden gems, man. But that's the portal world we live in right now, and adapt or get pushed out.
And then a lot of these coaches, too. I mean, Casey's, he's a fit at Belmont, right? The thing is some of these coaches do get other opportunities when they see they're developing these players and they move on. But I feel like Belmont is a really good gig, and that doesn't mean every coach wants to leave.
Right. And the other part of it, too, is even for the coaches. I mean, Casey continues doing what he's doing. You never know what's going to happen there in his situation, too. So it's give and take in a lot of different ways, man. You put a good product out there, they're going to find that product and pay for it somewhere else.
Thought this was crazy yesterday from Warren Sharp at Sharp Football when the Texans made the Stefon Diggs trade. Since 2010, the Houston Texans have 8 winning seasons. The Dallas Cowboys have 7. Trips to the playoffs since 2010. Houston Texans 7, Dallas Cowboys 6. Playoff wins.
There we go.
Houston Texans 5, Dallas Cowboys 3.
Wow.
So the premier team in Texas added a big wide receiver yesterday in Stefon Diggs.
So America's team is actually Houston.
But it's okay because the Yankees are off to a great start this season, so Cowboys fans aren't upset about it.
And Alabama's still in the Final Four. So
that's right.
Hey, you go.
Well, no. Kentucky got knocked out. They're worried about Alabama spring practice.
That's right.
Did you guys see yesterday the, I'm not going to say his full government name, RT Words Willie, who has gone viral for I don't care about nothing but the Tide. He was at Alabama practice yesterday. And Alabama football posted a video of them saying, what do we got here? And him going, Bletch, Bama, Bletch. Somebody retweeted it and said, oh, Nick Saban is retired.
Yeah. Drewski changed that guy's life. Drewski took him off a porch in rural Alabama and put him right smack dab in the middle of his favorite program.
Greenbow, Alabama.
So did.
As Forrest Gump would say.
I still will argue that, and I know Vols fans got those types, those personalities too. We need to stop making some people famous.
Oh, God. Paul Feinbaum show has done that.
Phyllis and Mulga.
So we got to put a governor on making people famous on social media. I'm sorry. I sound like a party pooper right now, don't I?
Well, some people don't need to have their voice out there that much.
It's the same reason. It's the same reason why the bad auditions on American Idol get as many views, if not more, than the really good ones. Mm-hmm. And America's Got Talent and all of these TV shows that are, game shows for singing and all these things. And the people that are terrible are more entertaining than the people who are really good.
By the way, LJ, L'Jarius Sneed has a voice on him. Did you hear that with Mike Keith when Mike Keith asked him to show his hidden talent because Will Levis can sing supposedly? Well, then L'Jarius showed his voice. You got to go back and look at it.
I'm going to go back and listen.
He has
immediately
some
after the
pipes.
Show. Good for him.
Yeah.
It's crazy being born with a good voice. Huh.
No, right?
Yeah, it's nice. You should try it sometime.
Do you want us to sing?
I was waiting. I knew he was going to win. And when I started saying it, I had to finish the sentence.
Mm-hmm.
I had to finish the sentence because I didn't want to give him that one, but I knew he was going to take it.
No, I don't have a good voice.
Yeah, you do. You do.
That's okay. Back at it tomorrow morning. I am off.
Yes.
There you are.
Congratulations to the haters and losers. I will be in Knoxville, Tennessee tomorrow.
Enjoy
The
it.
haters, of whom there are many, are celebrating. They're dancing in the streets, Ramon Foster.
No doubt about it, man. We'll hold it down.
We will. We'll drink some coffee
I'm back
for
Monday. Y'all are back tomorrow. We'll have lots to discuss, as always. And Ramon Foster has these words of wisdom for your life.
You got to remember at all times, good people, your Twitter fingers and your mic is always hot.